We thank you for staying with us on your election headquarters. We're going to be kicking things off, starting with Ododo-Diodio, and Winston Taki is our man on the ground. He joins us with the very latest live updates. Winston, is rather very early. What can you report? Are people putting up stones, queuing, and getting ready to vote?
Hello, I'm actually at the Ododo constituency at the forecourt of the Teshi, at the forecourt of the Jamestown police station. And at the moment, they are sorting out the ballot boxes for the presiding officers. So as I take you around, I'd like you to see what is happening here. It's rather a busy morning where the presiding officers are picking up their boxes before they go to their places of monitoring the election. So there are various persons here taking up their boxes to their allocated places within the constituency. Already, the presiding officers have been spoken to by the EC officials of the do's and don'ts, especially with regards to the election. So many here currently is a busy place. As I take you around, you can see it's been a quite busy morning right now. Everyone here trying as much as possible to get the allocation that has been appointed onto them by the election official. So it's rather a busy morning here, and I'm also here trying as much as possible to report to our viewers who are seated right in their homes this morning. Omavi.
All right, Winston, there at the Jamestown police station. So what is happening right now? Polling materials being dispatched to the various polling centers. Winston Taki with the very latest update. We'll go back to Ododo-Diodio for some more updates on the ground to check if those materials have been finally dispatched. But Evans, let's talk about Ododo-Diodio for a minute.
Yeah, let's do
It's
so.
an interesting constituency, isn't it?
It is. Let's do so. I mean, Ododo is a stronghold of the NDC. And if you go back into time, and let's just start with where we know we ended the last time. This is Ododo-Diodio in your shortly. I'm going to expand it just so that we can focus on it a bit more. And that here is what you see in your shot. I'm just going to circle it so we can get a picture of what happened the last time. And you see there that because the NDC is a very, very strong place for the NDC in terms of its ability to win that area. And over time, though, we've seen that the MPP wants to win that area. And so it creates an area of context. And I've covered Ododo before. I was there in 2008. But at the last time, John Mahama won it. John Mahama won it by, what, 55.4%. Now, between that and what you see here for Nana Addo isn't that significant. But this is an overwhelming stronghold for the MPP, for the NDC, in terms of its ability to just give them significant votes. And Greater Accra is going to be very interesting. Everybody else wants something there. I want to pull up the trends. The trends tell you a story of the NDC winning this significantly. Everybody wants to hold on to Greater Accra. If you want to hold on to Greater Accra, you want to keep what you have. But NDC has been dwindling. You see it on your screen there over the period. If you go back to 2012, that's the last time they had anything above 60%. They are going into this year's election with momentum slowing at 53.8%. What this means is the contest is going to be keener this year. The MPP knows that they need to do a bit more to cross that mark. With the presidential the way it was, you were expecting that Bawumia would do a bit more there. But you have Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo there being very popular in that area and across the country. At the parliamentary front, they've been struggling, but have won that area before. And that, for me, is something that the NDC is aware of and also knows that if you have Nilante Van Apoy, who is very strong. Remember this story about Mr. Bannerman?
Exactly.
So this area tends to pose a bit of a challenge security-wise. The police always has that area as one of the flashpoints. And I'm not surprised that very early in the morning, people are already beginning to queue. One of the things we need to also do is to pay attention to the area in terms of its poverty dynamics. That is a very poor area of Greater Accra over the period. And if you pull up the thematic, that tells us a story. Let's go back to 2015. The last time the data was available from the Statistical Service. Now, what we do here with our poverty heat map, the lighter the shade, the less poverty you have in the area. The darker the shade, the more poverty you have in the area. This is 2015, the last time the Statistical Service gave us data for what poverty looks like in the area when it comes to the Ododo. And it is lighter. If you look at the severity, it's just 1.84%, and then incidence at 15%. What happens in 2021, the last time we know this was available, this has gone up. Severity is now 43%. What it means is that people there are poorer as we speak right now. That obviously tends to influence the outcome. You have a lot of fisher folk in that community, a lot of uneducated folks in that community. When it comes to teenage pregnancy, I live very close to the Ododo when I grew up there in Korle Klottey. You begin to see that then began to have an impact in terms of education. We've been there, for example, for our just turned 18 conversation. And many people there told us that education was a key thing. If you look at the multi-dimensional poverty indicators, and we were looking at a few things. One of the things we looked at in the multi-dimensional poverty indicators in Ododo, and I want to pull that up. It tells a story about how, you see how dark it begins to look in that part of town, right next to Ododo. You begin to see that in Ayawaso Center, for example, and you go to a place like Dade Kotopon, and you go to Korle Klottey, and right next to it is where you have Ododo showing up in terms of its multidimensional poverty in that area. Right? So that is one of the things I want to show in terms of its nature. But Greater Accra generally, maybe look at this. This is the poverty heat map for Greater Accra in 2021. Look at what happens there in 2015. You immediately begin to see that something has happened in Greater Accra. Lighter the shade, the less poverty. The darker the shade, the more poverty. And I'm going to circle Greater Accra for you. And this plays out across all the areas. This area here is lighter in 2015. If you take that off and then you flip it to 2021, the story changes almost instantaneously.
Right. All right. We're going to continue with that analysis, but I also want us to take a quick trip to Ashaiman, where our man Carlos Kaloni is on the ground. Carlos, good morning. Carlos joining us via Zoom. Carlos, tell us exactly where you are. I know that you're following the materials being dispatched right now. What's happening? Carlos, if you can kindly unmute so we can hear you. Carlos Kaloni is our man in Ashaiman, giving us live updates now. Carlos, tell us where you are.
Yeah, Mamavi, I'm right in front of the Future Scholars Academy, which is actually one of the 357 polling stations in this Ashaiman constituency, where you can see long queue has already formed behind me. Many of the people I've been speaking to here said they got here around 1 a.m. And earlier, I was at the district police directorate where polling materials were being dispatched to polling stations. And so far, according to the officer there, they've done more than half of that, and they are still doing that. Other parts of the constituency are busy with a number of people parked and waiting for buses to convey them to other parts of the country. Those I spoke to earlier, many of them said they were on their way to the Volta region, the Adan area, and they have heard that some member of parliament have actually made arrangements for them to be transported to those areas to cast their vote. But it's important to note how crucial this Ashaiman constituency is. You know, since 1992, the NDC has dominated this particular constituency. MPP won it just once. That was somewhere in 2000. And so this is a crucial constituency for this election, being, one of the most populated constituency among the top 5 in the country. The NDC is counting heavily on this to win this election. And on the ground, a lot of people are so much excited about the fact that they're going to cast their vote today and they're expecting that the process is actually going to be peaceful. I'll try and speak to a few of them to see what they make of the situation. So you're live on Oil News. Give us your name and tell us how long that you've been in the queue.
But people call me Ash. I came since yesterday. I'm expecting peace because you should remember that Ghana is bigger than any political party. Even when you read Matthew chapter 5 verse 19, it's a blessed peacemakers. So I'm expecting nothing but peace, so that at the end of it all, Ghana will be.
All right, thank you so much. And so that's just one of the voters who actually got here as early as 1 a.m. Mamabi, the situation is interesting because across the constituency, queues are forming and the number keeps in it. And so we'll keep you posted on what happens here. Just some few meters away from here is where the MP for this constituency will be casted. Down here, the MP Kinesa will also be cast.
And that's
there are about 6 candidates in this particular constituency. One we are told has pulled out, so now 5 of them are vying for the seat here in the Ashaiman constituency, Mama B.
Carlos, thank you very much for that report. Carlos reporting from a stronghold of the NDC, Ashaiman. Carlos will be back with a lot more. It's interesting that as at 1 a.m. we find citizens queuing, getting ready to cast their ballots. Let's cross over now to Tema East. Mamiesi Thompson is joining us via Zoom from Tema East. Mamiesi, what can you report this early?
Thank you, Mama V. So I'm currently at Padmore School here in Community 1, part of the Tema East constituency. And as early as last night, there are voters here waiting to cast their ballots. In fact, I've been to a few polling stations earlier, and people were there as early as 3 a.m., 4 a.m., waiting for the electoral officials to come and set up to begin the election. But over here at Padmore, people were here early last night, around 6 p.m., and have still been here till now. I have one person with me. I'll walk towards that person so that we can interview him why he was here that early so that we can get more information from him. Hello, sir. Good morning. You're live on Joy News. You were here yesterday as early as 6 a.m. Why were you here this early?
We are here to vote. To vote for Ghana, but not for individual. Yeah, not for individual.
You were here as early as 6 p.m. last night. 5 p.m. Oh, even earlier.
Yeah.
So why? Why is it so important for you to get here at this time?
Yeah, it's very important, as I said earlier on, to get to vote.
Okay.
Yeah. And then, as a youth, you know what is ahead of you. It is December. We are in December. A month to vote.
Okay.
You need to be here to make the change in candidates.
All right. All right. Thank you so much. So, Mama Vida was one voter who was here as early as 5 p.m. last night. I have here with me an old woman who is also seated here, ready to cast her. Mommy, then live or Joy News. It's catch and other Hanumano pay Manana Wabo 5:30. And a bit more of you now, but later, and it's now Bantam down.
My Bantam will send a Modamaman. My Bantam, no matter what waban, and the mark of you would be a mark a wire fine. Oh, no, Mamma, Marshall, and Taminam Daban.
One go to Nebe and then you be there.
No quarter, Uncle Timanam.
Okay. So, Mama V, what this old woman is saying that she came as early as 5 so that she can she can vote and go back and finish whatever she's doing at home. The others two here who've also been sitting here for this long. Let me speak to this gentleman. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
How are you doing? You're live on Joy News. Tell us why you're here this early.
So Bantam, about to the international. Now, we'll be able to but now have a salary now by no by a so Bantam, no by salary because a unipo baby. Otu baby no cool. Where you the Otu baby could be better 3 days per hour source. The only answer to a baby was about so baby. Otu be up with you. No cocoa. No, in a Ghana. Baby, if you are a gun, Yeah, no one said, but discuss. I had you, my one year, you know, said, go to a baby. No, for you. Some time of Soviets.
Yeah, that's it. So, Mama V, this man, as you heard earlier, is saying that he's here to cast his vote, live here. He doesn't want any form of rancor going on here. So, Padmore is one of the biggest polling stations in Tema East. And as we know, Tema East has always been an NPP stronghold from 1992. But in 2020, NDC broke that chain, and Ni Ashai Odampton won for the parliamentary seat in the Tema East constituency. But we understand that the NPP is coming up strong this time around with their candidate, Yohani Ama Ashite, so that he will recover or regain the NPP's confidence in this constituency, if I should say. So we're here, Mama, we were still monitoring events. We're hoping that all goes well in the Tema East constituency. We'll still be getting more as and when it comes along. As we speak, the Electoral Commission officers are not yet here. We know that the materials are here. They are getting ready. Their materials are here for them to set up. But the officials we haven't seen setting up yet, and that's been the situation in other places as well. And we're wondering why. 4 years ago, at this time, we knew that they were already set up and getting ready to conduct the election. But at this time, we haven't seen that yet. We've seen their materials around and whatnot. So I just saw some of them just come in, and then they have now started setting up so that they can conduct the election. And so we'll be coming your way again with more as and when we get them, Mamabi.
Thank you very much, Mami Esi Nyamiche Thompson reporting there from Tema East. And it's interesting that somebody actually formed a queue as early as 5 p.m. last night. I'm wondering how he slept. But let's cross over now and go to Pusiga, where we have our man on the ground, Atongo Idrisu Kasim, live there for us, also joining us via Zoom. Atongo, good morning to you. What can you report? Exactly where are you in Pusiga? Atongo, please unmute for us and tell us where you are in the Pusiga constituency. Atongo, if you can hear me, kindly unmute and give us the updates. All right, we will return to Pusiga in a short while.
All right.
Okay.
So I can hear you now.
All right, go ahead.
Currently, I'm at the Pusiga Electoral Commission office, where election materials are being deployed to the various polling stations this morning. I was here last night with them as they were making arrangements. This morning, early at 3 a.m., officials, Electoral Commission officials who have been assigned to do the work were here this morning to take their materials. And that's because they are using vehicles to convey those who are going far. We have places where we work county and officials through back to convey their support. And Pusiga, we all know that Pusiga is an NDC-dominated constituency. For the number of years, NDC has been winning this state. And this year, we have a candidate who spoke to me earlier on this yesterday that he is standing for victory to turn the story around. Now, according to him, he said Pusiga is going to dominate in the media space after this election. And we don't know how that will mean, but I suggest that he's talking about victory. And as I'm speaking to you, plans are being put in place because they are yet deploying the electoral material. We have not been able to visit any center, so we are here to make sure they leave here before we move to. And this morning or today, being the election day, we are expecting 58,005 voted from this constituency. And we have 170 polling stations in this constituency here as I speak to you now.
All right, Atongo, monitoring as election materials are being dispatched to the various polling centers in the Pusiga constituency. Let's go to another hot constituency, one that we're keeping an eye on definitely. Ningo Prampram, and Kwete Nate is a man on the ground. Good morning to you, Kwete. Where in Ningo Prampram are you and what's happening?
Mamavi, I'm currently stationed at the Methodist Primary 2 polling station, and I must say that voters have started forming queues at the various polling stations visited this morning. At least I've been to 5 polling stations, and I must say there have been a handful of voters who were either seated on benches or standing at designated spots. Some tell me that they came here as early as 2 a.m. and their reason was simple. They want to vote early and then go home. Let me speak to one of them and then find out why he was here this early. Inkpape minihene obahie mlaja.
Inkpaye mla ma vote bene pene ma we mla.
The many time no bahio.
Imbasuye mla imbiji we 3 o'clock imbasuye 3:30.
So this woman tells me that she came very early, and the reason why she came here very early is that she wants to vote to enable her go home. So that she will go and rest. And I must say, voting materials have been dispatched to this polling station. I think about 15 minutes ago, the EC officials were here. They brought the voting materials.
Nate reporting.
I have one of the voters also here. Good morning, sir.
Morning, officer. Morning, officer.
And what time did you come here, sir?
Let me say 5 o'clock.
5 o'clock. Why did you come this early?
I want to vote fast so that they see that I'm the first person who voted something. I want to vote earlier so that people see that I'm serious for this election.
Okay, Mama, so this is what I can report at the Methodist Primary 2 polling station.
And that's Kwete Nate reporting from the Ningo Prampram constituency. We see people standing and queuing, getting ready for this exercise this morning. And from where Kwete was reporting, materials are already on the ground. So election officials are getting ready to do the setup and start the exercise at exactly 7 a.m. We'll be going back to Ningo Prampram, but let's cross over and go to our Joy 997 studio where Kojo Yangsing is standing by. Kojo, good morning to you.
No doubt that across the world, eyes are all on Joy and ears are all tuned in as we wake up the nation getting ready to vote. And of course, the quick whip around that you've already done is showing just how seriously people are taking this exercise. And it's quite exciting to see. So we're looking forward to more developments as they evolve. And no doubt it's going to be an eventful day.
All right, Kojo Yangsing in our 997 studio. He will be bringing us a lot more. Oh, Kojo, there you are. We can see you now. How ready are you, though?
Well, I've been ready. I was born ready. I've been ready since the last election, Mama B. You know, we are so excited to be covering this historic election just because of what it all means. And we'll be having lots of very important people coming through Studio 997 today. So we'd love for you to keep your eyes on us all the way through because one of the important people who will be stopping by this morning is Dr. Mohammed Ibn Chambers. You know the important role he's been playing in diplomacy in the sub-region. And of course, because of his roots with the NDC, he has played an important role already in ensuring that they've come to the peace table. And we'll be learning a little bit more about how he did that. He's just one of many who'll be stopping through Studio 997.
All right, live there in Studio 997, Kojo Yankson. We will be going back to Kojo Yankson in a bit. But let's hit the ground again. Let's go to West Central this time around. Rafiq Salam is standing by. Hello, Rafiq. Good morning to you. What can you tell us? What's happening in West Central? Where exactly are you?
I am currently at the West Central constituency of the Upper West Region. You know, in the Upper West Region here, there are about 519,000 voters in the region in 1,284 polling stations right here. And so I am currently at the Limari polling station. This particular area, for them, voting is part of their life. And so you can see clearly that there are already a lot of stones that have been used as cues on the ground here. And so that's where I'm currently positioned. I've seen some people immediately after the Fajr prayers, they are right here. Some even came as early as 2 a.m. and then to keep these stones and then kicking stools right there. So let me try to speak to one of the early people who was right here in the person of Mr. Can you tell us your name? Isasan Salil. Why are you here that early?
Yeah, I'm here early enough to get here overnight and vote early and then go back to my job.
This particular area, there are lots of people. This is one of the polling stations in that hospital that you have over 90% turnout. So why is it so?
Well, I think it's their interest. But for me, I see it as an exercise to my franchise, which is a national constitutional right, which I want to exercise.
Okay, so you can see that Mr. Samson is already ready, and then you can see other people. There are a lot of women who are seated here. You know, it's very cold. The Hamatan just started here in this region, and so you can see some of them even dressing like Eskimos right here in the atmosphere. So you can see the stools right here, kitchen stools, and also some are using stones. So this is a Limai for you, and it's part of the 1,200 polling stations in the Upper West region. So the Electoral Commission already, they have been able to put the polling booths right here, and then also the electoral materials also are here. So this is what is happening in West Central constituency. And then in the coming hours, we will be telling you what is really happening right here in the Upper West region. Rafiq Salam reporting for Joy News.
Will not allow you to miss anything that happens in Central. Rafiq Salam right there. We go to Second D now, and Benjamin Bray is on standby. Good morning to you, Benjamin. Tell us exactly where you are in Second D.
Good morning to you. Currently, I'm in Second D constituency around Second D Youth Center. Around 5:30 a.m. this morning, I went to the collation center at Faith Alive Church opposite Second D ECG, where I saw the EC officials in the Second D district deploying the electoral materials to the 90 polling stations and the Second D constituency, where they are being escorted with police officers. Currently, I'm at, as I said earlier, at the Second D Youth Center. There is no queue here currently. There is no queue here currently. So we are on standby, waiting for the electoral officers to make the arrangements for the various police centers in Second D. But in Second D right now, everything is come here.
Benjamin Bray, our man in Second D, reporting there for us this morning. Evans, let's talk about Second D. We've been to a few places. We've been to Tema East, we've been to Ashaman, we've been to Ningo Pram Pram, and we just returned from Second D. What's interesting about Second D, for instance?
It's not interesting as far as the winning party is concerned, because the MPP wins it almost always. In fact, they wins it always in that particular area of town, and so it's not really interesting. If you look at the what it says on our trends map here, you begin to see what I'm talking about. This is a clean sweep for the MPP, and that's the place
Japamesa.
and the Japamesa. So they win a very, and when they win handsomely because they had all the way up to, what, 67%. And Japamesa actually is not doing bad in terms of the percentage margins that he came in with 67. So this is an area you expect the MPP to win, except that in politics there are no absolutes. We've seen flipping before. And I'll come to one of the areas you've been to already. That flip, that show that it's actually possible. Even when you won an area for so long, you can actually still lose it. You were in the Upper West region, and by the way, it's not one of the interesting areas because you were in Wa Central. And that's Wa Central. Again, not an interesting area to focus on because the NDC wins it always. So it's nothing interesting there. Again, we'll see what happens tonight. It's always possible for something to happen that you can't explain, but history says NDC should win this handsomely. Let's come to Greater Accra. You were in two areas in Greater Accra I want to focus on. You were in Ningo Prom there. And Ningo Prom is interesting only because of a certain gentleman that has become very popular. Sam George. And you see him there with his performance. But I want to pull up his performance in terms of how he compares. There used to be a certain gentleman called E.T. Mensah, who obviously we know was an institution when it came to not only NDC politics, but national politics. And this gentleman called Sam George managed to knock him out. It was a very acrimonious context internally. But we know that Sam George himself comes to this party with a very strong background in terms of his ability to pull the votes. Let's talk about the man we know. We're just talking about E.T. Mensah. He was constantly in the 70s. But Sam George has taken the party very close to what they used to have, 69%. He's right there at the edge. But also, if you compare what could potentially happen this year, and the economic factors are always interesting. And I like to always pull that up just to make the point, and I'll go back to one of the areas that this is Ningo Prom in 2015. The lighter the shade, the less poverty you have there. Now, flip this to what we currently have in 2021, the last time we have the data from Statistical Service. Instantly, you begin to see that the shade is darker. What it means is that poverty has increased there from the last time we were at the polls. That could have a potential impact, and that could increase Sam George's performance in that particular area if you look at parliamentary and the performance there this year. This his 69% could go up. But one more place before we go back onto the lines. And you were in Tema East. Among all the places I've been so far, that is the area with the most interest. Because it is the area I was just pointing to when I said you can win a place for so long. If something catastrophic happens to you there, you can lose. And Mami was right when she mentioned that this is an area that the MPP had won at the parliamentary level. They won it comfortably all over, right? All the way from 1996, even 92, they've cleared this. Of course, 92 was one of those stolen verdict that they wrote, but they constantly had won it. So it's a very safe seat until Titus Glover did something there very catastrophic. No wonder he's not on the ballot this time. But the candidate for the MPP, for the NDC, by the way, Odampton, is a very strong candidate. And when he was winning for the first time, he didn't just win by party. Normally, the first time wins, you barely win and cross the line. He won it by 56%. That tells you, for a first-time win, flipping from the incumbent party, this might be a very, very strong candidate. And the reason why this is interesting in Greater Accra, there are 33 constituencies across the country where we call the flip swing constituencies. They flip from one party to the next. The MPP took only 13 of those constituencies from the NDC, but the NDC took 20 from the MPP, and this is one of those constituencies. In the Greater Accra, there'll be a battle here. But if you go to the presidential is a bit more of a swing. They tend to change quite a bit. The last time they voted John Dramani Mahama, but before that, they had gone to Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo. And then before that, they had gone to NDC. So they flipped quite a bit at the presidential level. They don't do quite the same when it comes to the parliamentary. This is a typical skirt and blouse area. And is one of the areas that we keep an eye on in an election like this. All right, Tema East, we will be going back on the ground because we're keeping an eye on that particular constituency where Mamiesi Nyamisha Thompson
is reporting from. She's on the ground. We're going to go round again. It's about just a few minutes to 6, about 6 more minutes to 6 a.m. And as we've been hearing, in some of the constituencies, people have been queuing since 5 p.m. last night. At about 1, 2, people have also been queuing. And it's interesting in Wa, for instance, Wa Central with stones. Yes. We've seen tables and chairs being used to queue for the human beings. I wonder how they're going to figure out who the stone is.
Yeah, but
when they finally,
I think
the human beings finally come.
In the community, people know. And polling stations, maximum 700 people. Closely knit communities, they know. If you've been to Wa before, that is a closely knit community, and you will not cross the line because you know the stone represents something. But the thing that interests me really, considering that it is a stronghold of the NDC and people are out very early, what does it say? People are out very early. We've said overnight when we're doing analysis is when you have people showing up early, there's enthusiasm. In a place where it's a stronghold of a political party, a particular party, when people show up in your numbers, it always means well for the party that holds the place and is a stronghold of the party.
Right.
So if this is anything to go by, and this is just a sign of the enthusiasm of the people there to go out and vote, if you're an NDC person, considering that Wa Central is a place that you believe to be a strong, and it is a strong because of the historical electoral outcomes, then you say you're happy because you want the people out to go and vote. It's the same thing that the MPP will be doing in Ashanti region where they have a lot of their strongholds. You want people out early. And I'm waiting to go to Ashanti to see what's happening there. And then Volta region too. Are people as enthused, as pumped up this morning, waking up? There's a place we went where somebody had been there at 5 p.m. or so and had come there to start queuing ahead of today. The EC is hoping to cross 85% turnout.
Right.
That's ambitious. That's ambitious, especially when a party is approaching its 8th year. But it's good to see people out there exercising their civic responsibility and ready to do it very early. They will do anything just to get ahead of the time and vote. And they're saying, I want to go and work, but I want to vote early before I go.
Yeah, I want to exercise my my rights because I have some constitutional, no, I have the right to vote and I'm exercising it today. Evans, I'll come back to you. Just a quick stop at Pong Katamaso where Rejoice Semefa Pesu is standing by. Rejoice, good morning to you. Where exactly are you and what can you report for us this morning?
Right, Mama, good morning. So right now I'm in Zeno, one of the electoral areas in the Konkata-Mansu constituency. And I've been speaking to some voters. They have been telling me that they came here as early as 9 p.m. yesterday to queue because they would be returning to work later today. Now, what they do here is that there's a long queue here, so they are giving them numbers so that when they open the gate officially for voting to start, there wouldn't be any confusion. So that is one internal arrangement that they have made. Now, this is a stronghold of the NDC, the Konkata-Mansu. So we have their members here. They are party officials who are on the grounds making sure that everything is okay. The electoral officers or the EC officers have started arrangement for voting to start at 7.
Semefa there reporting for us in Konkata-Mansu. And, you know, Evans, one of the things I want us to talk about, people were expressing different sentiments maybe a few months ago. But we see people actually showing up to vote. People are there. This is very early. It's not even 6 a.m. yet.
Yeah, and the political mind is working here. So what does that mean? Does it mean that there's something that has moved them there to go and vote, and this is an opportunity to express it? They don't have the microphones, but they have their thumb, as we say. This is the best expression of what you're feeling that you haven't expressed. You may have expressed in your small group at home, but now you want to go out there and show whoever it is that you are not happy with, that you really control his employment and you can fire or hire him. If you go to Konkata-Mansu.
Or you could be happy and so you want to...
Yeah, hire him.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the point, right? So that's why people maybe are showing up to vote. But that is why this year we said, in our smart world, let's try and dig a bit down to the kind of things that people maybe will be inspiring people to do the kind of thing you're doing, which is waking up early and queuing and with stones, etc. Obviously poverty, obviously unemployment, obviously education, obviously your ability to put food on your table. Bonkatamanso is an NDC stronghold. It's always been. Whether they were poor or not, they will vote NDC anyway. But the reality is, in 2015, when they went to the polls, they were not as poor as now, right? And this is the 2015 picture from the Statistical Service, and this is Bonkatamanso, by the way. So you see the severity was at 0.54%, right? Which you see in your corner there, and I want to highlight that with the yellow so that it stands out. And the incidence is just 5.92% at the time. When they voted the year after that, in 2016, but this was not in 2015, 2016 when they voted right after that, NDC won, and rightly so. Why? Because you show it, it's pretty down there, 0.54% severity. NDC won that area, and that's what Semefa was rightly pointing out to you, that it is an area that the NDC always wins, and this is 2016. NDC wins it, and the statistics show they've always won it. But in 2016, they have 51%. Somebody else had done better in 2008 with 63%, which is really one of the best, second best, if you compare to what it had in 1996, right? 70.5% in 1996, and then you have 57%, right, in 2012. So that's Bonkatamanso. If you come right now to the thematic, and remember what I showed you earlier, show you again, this is it. Lighter the shade, the less poverty. The darker the shade, the more poverty. It's darker. And you see the values there change. From 0.53%, we have 43%.
That's a significant jump.
That's a significant jump. So what it means is more people in this area, and again, incidence is so 10. More people in the area are poor. And out of the poor, they are extremely poor. And that's what the severity is about. So you expect that something may be inspiring them to go and vote. It may be this. It may not be. But the evidence says if you're in a constituency and you're part of those 43.10%, that is something that can inspire you to go early, to go and show your, I guess, your will in terms of indicating what is happening there in that area.
We need to spend time and talk about the poverty levels after the elections, because all the areas that you visited, Evans, what you've highlighted so far, poverty has just been increasing.
Just look at the Greater Accra picture when you come. And then I'll leave you to tell me the story when I show you 2015 and 2021. And then I'll tell you what happened in the Greater Accra in 2020. It all adds up.
I'm not looking forward to that because I have a feeling that the statistics are really bad. But let's go to Clote Koli. That's a constituency to look out for. Very interesting constituency. Collins Frimpong is a man on the ground. Collins, good morning to you. What can you report this morning?
Good morning, Mama V. So here in Clote, the ballot papers or the electoral materials were distributed exactly 4 a.m. and almost all the polling stations, they've received their ballot, their electoral materials. Currently at Accra Technical University, where we have 6 polling stations, we've already set up, as you can see, here at Accra Technical University, the 6 polling stations, they all have their electoral materials, and many people have been here since 4:30 a.m. that I got here. People have already been here waiting to join the queue. The only issue that people were having was that they were not able to identify some of their polling stations because where they registered during the registration, the exact place that they did the registration, some of the places have changed because of some construction activities happening in the university. But that one has been resolved as the presiding officer came in and explained things to them. But in Korle Klottey, we are expecting 105,852 people to vote today across 229 polling stations and also 11 electoral areas. And the parliamentary candidates in this particular constituency for the NDC, we have Zenator Rawlings, who won this particular seat in 2016 with little about 31,000 votes and ahead of Philip Addison. We remember Philip Addison, who was one of the lawyers for the NPP during the 2012 election petition. Zenator Rawlings won that one with a little over 3,000 difference. In 2020, Zenator Rawlings won again. That time, NPP came in with a different parliamentary candidate, and Zenator Rawlings increased her votes margin by around 6,000. This time around, compared to 2020, where the voter population was around 99.3 thousand or 99.3K, or somebody can say around 99,000. This time around, we are having about 105,000 total voters in Korle Klottey here. So it seems the voters has increased by 6,000. So whether Zinato is going to increase her margin this time around or she is going to lose, we will wait until voting ends here in Korle Klottey at 5 p.m. This time around, MPP is presenting a new candidate. If you check right from 2000 where the NPP won, as a matter of fact, the NPP has won only twice since 1996 in this particular constituency. The NPP have won only twice. That's 2000 and 2004. And they lost in 2008. Right from 2008, MPP has never been able to win this particular seat, Korle Klottey seat. And anytime election year, they present a new candidate. This time around, it's no different. In 2024, MPP is presenting a candidate who is a former constituency chairman for the NPP in Korle Klottey. And if you remember, in 2016, Ninoy Valentino, who is a parliamentary candidate for the NPP, contested as an independent candidate, but he lost to Zinato Rawlings. So it is an interesting dynamics in this particular constituency, Korle Klottey constituency. Somebody coming up, Valentino coming up against Zinato Rawlings, who he lost to Zinato in 2016. But at that time, he came in as an independent candidate. But this time around, he's coming as an MPP candidate. On the presidential aspect, MPP has won only 3 occasions. That's in 2000 and also 2004. Former President Kufuor won it in 2000 and 2004, and the MPP lost it to Atamil's late President Atamils in 2008. 2012, former President John Dramani Mahama won it. But in 2016, current President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo won the presidential in Korle Klottey, but he lost in 2020. John Dramani Mahama flipped it again for the NDC. So since 1996, the NPP has been able to win Korle Klottey only on 3 occasions since 1996. But whether Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia is going to win this constituency or John Dramani Mahama is going to win it as he did in 2020, that's another thing to tell. But things are going on well, security-wise. Everything has been peaceful around here. No issues has been recorded so far. Queues are mounting.
This is the Collins. Thank you very much, our man in this constituency that we're certainly keeping an eye on. What happens when Zanato Evans goes against a man who's been on the ballot before once as an independent candidate but lost, but is now on as an MPP candidate?
Yeah, and that's an interesting place. Zanato is a very powerful candidate there. I grew up in Adabraka, which is called Korle Klottey, and there's a school very close by where I lived called St. Joseph. There's a story of Rawlings used to eat gari, Yoko gari close by. I remember still going to that place. That woman still sells there. The point I'm making with this is your father was celebrated in that part of town. He lived there. He played there. He schooled there. And no wonder when the daughter shows up, he is the best performing parliamentary candidate for the NDC in that area. The last time she showed up in 2020, he had 55.7%. Nobody else in that area had come close in terms of that number. The last time anybody came close there was in 2000. In fact, she herself took it back to 50. So that tells you that she's very strong going into this election. So it is not really interesting at the parliamentary level. MPP had won it twice, and he is right. But when they won it, they are very, very close. In fact, they won it before in 2004, but less than 50% of the votes. For me, it is the presidential elections in Korle Klottey I'm interested in. Because if you look at it, right, it swings when it comes to the presidential elections. It can swing both NDC or MPP. It's done that at least in the last 3 elections, it's flipped quite a lot. And if you go back to 2004, again, MPP won it, 2000, MPP won it. So there's a possibility here that anybody could win it.
Right.
MPP could win it, NDC could win it, John Mahama can win it, but also Bawumia can win it. That is where I guess I am looking at. Here, because of the Rawlings factor, you expect that the daughter, Senator Rawlings will again sweep it. Within the context of everything that is happening, it is whether or not you have Bawumia winning it back. And a place that Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo has shown that it's possible. But look also at the winning margins. It is very tiny whoever wins to the presidential. The margin of victory is always 1%, plus or minus 1%. Even the last time that Akufo-Addo won it by 51.1%. And the last time that John Mahama won it, 52.5%. So it is going to be close here. It's anybody's game. And that is the story of Greater Accra. If you look at the Greater Accra, the big picture for Greater Accra, and I want to show you that, you will see that it was actually very close at the presidential level. This is Greater Accra. Look at the difference here. John Mahama won it by 1.3%. Akufo-Addo was close to him by 1.2%. The difference is down to a few thousands. And that is the Greater Accra story. So again, NDC won it parliamentary, NDC won it presidential. Before 2020, if you win Greater Accra, you win the national elections. It's not longer the case. And I will tell you why, possibly. That changed in 2020.
All right, Evans, very interesting how the analysis, would it swing? Would it be sket and blouse? I guess we just have to wait for voting to end and counting to begin. But let's go to Kwesi Mintim in the Western region. Nanama Bwedua is standing by. Nanama, where in Kwesi Mintim are you and what can you report? Nanama, kindly unmute so we can hear you. Nanama, if you can hear me.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Is it better now?
It is, Nanama. Give us the report.
Right. Great. So I'm currently at the Apremdo polling station, and what I can report this morning is that the electoral commissions are set and ready. The electorate.
Hello, Nanama. Well, we seem to have lost Nanama there, reporting from Apremdo, but we'll certainly return there in Kwesi Mintim. Let's quickly go to Eric Asante, who is also joining out from the Asebu Kwamankese constituency. Eric, good morning to you. What can you report? Eric, please unmute and tell us exactly where you are. What can you report?
Hi, Mama V. I'm currently at the Abra Duncan Methodist GHS, one of the 163 polling stations here in the Abra Asebu Kwamankese constituency here in the central region. I mean, people and the connoisseurs have described it as one of the battlegrounds here in the central region. It's a fight between, or it's a battle between Felix Ofosu-Kwakye of the NDC and, of course, this major contender, that is Etudru Nyante of the NPP. When you move through town from last night, you see people in cluster, obviously discussing how events will unfold here. All of them, depending on their persuasion, going into this particular vote with a view of their candidates winning. So all the state EC officials are currently making sure that the place is ready for the election to begin at 7 a.m. So, Mama B, all in all, the Abra Asebu Kwamankese, one of the battlegrounds here in the central region, is getting ready for that big election to roll out in at exactly 7 a.m.
All right. Thank you very much, Eric Asante, right there for us. In less than an hour, voters will start voting. We're going to hit the ground again. But right now, let's go to our 997 studio, where Kojo Singh is standing by. He's got some conversations that he will be having. Kojo, if you can hear me.
I've got to tell you, I've been looking forward to this particular conversation all morning. We're joined by Professor Bafo Agyeman-Duah. I don't think any further explanation is needed beyond that. A governance expert whose voice has been heard on national issues, throughout the years. And this morning he's here with us to help us with analysis as the day starts to dawn on this big and important historic event, the 2024 election. Prof. Bafo Agyeman, what a pleasure to be with you. Good morning.
Good morning. It's always a pleasure for me also to
Thank
be
you
with
for
you.
making it.
Thank you. Yeah.
All right. Now, I suppose a good place to start would be with the Electoral Commission. It's now their show. They are in charge, and however things go is largely up to them. As the build-up has been progressing, what have been your impressions of the EC? Do they seem ready for this historic event?
Kojo, they have announced just yesterday that they are ready, that all the materials needed for this process have been distributed. And I'm hoping that the various distribution points followed up and sent them to the stations as people are lining up already to cast their ballots. Of course, there have been a lot of challenges for the EC over the past few months, but I think at the same time they've been a little bit more open and transparent and inclusive and also responsive to the concerns expressed by citizens and the political parties. Let us hope and pray that there will be no serious backlashes in terms of the preparations that they've made, and that all the materials will arrive on time for people to begin to vote on time. If we can achieve that, that will be a great start for today's momentous event. Yeah.
I think experience tells us that there might be one or two, places where things might, not go exactly according to the clock. But we want to see largely, things going on time.
Yes.
Do you feel that the EC has done a good job of garnering faith in its abilities from the political parties?
Well, frankly, listening to the parties, especially the opposition party, that is not so, because the voices that we hear from the opposition party always has been some kind of serious concerns expressed about the work of the EC. But I think overall, the EC has been responsive, especially over the past few months. See, previously there were a lot of issues, but the EC was a little bit reluctant to come out openly, admit and rectify whatever errors that they may have made. But I think lately they've been more responsive. And I'm hoping that that has helped to build some kind of confidence in the citizens in terms of what they are going to do. And again, I'm hoping that it's also the responsibility of citizens to ensure the success of this by playing their role. The EC alone cannot make it work. They may have put everything on the right track, but at the station, the behavior and attitudes of people, both the officials at the polling station and citizens who go out there to cast their votes, the security personnel who are there to provide security, the work of all these entities together is what makes a successful election. So whilst the EC may have done its part, I think citizens also have a responsibility to reciprocate by doing what is expected of them. If you cast your ballot and you go away peacefully and just return at 5 o'clock to witness the counting, if everybody did that, I think it will be fine. Secondly, I know that the army has announced that there will be no soldiers at the polling stations. Let's pray it works like that. But at the same time, we must also watch out for people who may dress like official military people who may come there and cause some problems. For me, that is my concern, because I know the law has banished so-called vigilantes at these places, but at times people can camouflage and come around posing as national security officers when in fact they are not. So if you can check all these things, I'm comfortably assured that we can have a very successful elections.
Yeah, if you're listening to us on Joy, we're having a conversation with Professor Bafo Agyeman Dua, and we're looking largely at the big picture of the 2024 elections, getting his impressions of how prepared or otherwise he thinks we are. Prof, let's look at the process itself. I mean, you know that in the run-up to an election, there will always be some suspicion, it might be rigged. What is your assessment of the robustness of the Ghanaian electoral process? Can it be rigged?
Frankly, if we all play by the rule, it's very difficult to rig. In fact, Dr. Farijan in his time said that, and since then everybody has said it, and I would say so. If you look at the structure of the process from A to Z, and we do it right as specified, there's no room, because after all, from the printing, party agents supervise the printing, distribution of materials, they're part of it. It goes to the polling stations, they are there. You cast your ballot, they are there. And you make sure you do not, I don't even know how anybody can go in with 2 ballot papers and do it. So if we follow the script, I don't think there should be a problem. But I guess there's still room, even in that kind of tight system. There must be some room for any unscrupulous person to do something. That's why we all have to be watching out. So whilst I think the script is perfect, the human agency that is driving that process could be the problem. So whilst I can say for sure that the system is among the best in Africa, perhaps in the whole world, the problem has been the human agency operating this kind of system. As for ballot staffing and all, again, if agents are vigilant and the security personnel, if they are vigilant, I don't see how one can replace one box with another that is already staffed. But then again, it all depends on the vigilance of people at a particular polling station. Stories of box snatching have been going on for years in our system. And not only here, I've been to many other African countries. I remember in Nigeria, a funny story of how somebody came openly, we were there, and just took the box away and ran in with it. Maybe the guy wasn't right upstairs. Those things happen. And I also saw in Mina, the home town of Babagenda, in a school where I was supervising elections, where one room was locked, and then somebody came and called the international observers and said, please come here, there's something going on here. We went in there, and they were busily stamping ballot papers. Oh, yeah. Kojo, don't open your mouth. True stories.
Goodness.
Yes. I've seen all these across. I was in Liberia for the election that brought Charles Taylor to power, and I went to one school where they were teaching them, literally, you come to the box and they teach you where to put your thumbprint. So all these things go on. But I think Ghana, I think we have gone beyond that. From what I know of our system and our people, we've gone beyond that. So perhaps there's a still more sophisticated way of cheating that we'll have to be looking out for. So whilst I'm fairly confident of our system, I still have some room to wonder if, in fact, all of us will behave according to the rule for this system to work for us.
Perhaps more than before, and I think with good reason, the role of the military has come up for a lot of discussion in the run-up to this election. I think some lessons are being picked from the last one. What are your thoughts on the state's preparation and arrangement and the role that they have envisaged for the military?
You're right. Always the military has been a problem, not necessarily by the high command, but on the ground, some soldiers just assume they have powers to do certain things, or perhaps they've been sent privately or secretly to come and play certain roles at polling stations. So that has been a problem. The incidents of violence and deaths that we witnessed in the last elections 4 years ago, I suppose were by people who were dressed like military men. Whether they were truly military men or not, I mean, up to today, we don't know. And that's why earlier I talked about vigilantes who may camouflage as official security personnel. So it's good that the CDS is now saying, look, no soldiers should be at the polling stations. And let us hope this is true. And I think the media should be monitoring this very carefully. If they find anyone like that, they should quickly inform the nation and their superiors. So if in fact they are around and they are just sitting somewhere, just they come forward only when invited by the police at the instructions tell us, then I think the military will be fine. But please, the soldiers must behave. Those even who are put at some places to be called upon in case of need, they must also recognize that this is a very important activity for the nation, and going wrong will be disastrous for all of us. So their role is as important as a citizen who is going to cast the ballot to determine who becomes our president. So overall, I think, and I'm hoping that the rules laid by the Army Command will be followed by the personnel, and that all of us as citizens should also cooperate to make sure that it works for us. Yeah.
Well, if you just joined us, we're having a very interesting conversation with Professor Bafo Agyeman-Duah. This is your election headquarters. Nobody does it better, and I know you'll have your eyes glued on us throughout this entire process. And here's one reason why. We'll bring you all the updates. For example, right now in Esikado Ketan constituency, our very own Inatalia Kwanza has been standing by and keeping an eye on how things are evolving this morning. Inatalia, if you can hear us, tell us how Esikado Ketan has woken up on election day.
Kojo, yes, so you can see within the streets of Esikado Ketan, people are gearing up to come to the various polling stations. Where I'm standing right now is the Brigadier Hall, and it also happens to be the coalition center for the Esikado Ketan constituency. They have 161 polling stations in this constituency. Expected eligible voted 79,344 eligible voters are expected to vote across this 161 centers. Where I am, the EC is ready. The ballot box has already been mounted. And then a few people are here waiting to cast their vote at exactly 7 a.m.
It seems there's a lot of enthusiasm from the people of Esikado Ketan. Have you had a chance to talk to any of them about why they are turning out so early?
Well, for most of them, they feel that this is their right. It is their time to make a good decision here. And so they are here to cast their votes. They are here to make a decision which we've all been waiting for since December. We've all been waiting for this day. So that is the same reason why they are here. But I want to put this across. Esikado Ketan happens to be a stronghold of the New Patriotic Party. You know, Honorable Joe Garte has been the minister here since the member of parliament here since 2004. Today, 2 parliamentary candidates are vying for this position here. The NPP's Charles Bitsu Onuawanto, and then the NDC's Dr. Grace Ayen Sudanfa. So these are the 2 parliamentary candidates vying for the seat here at Esikado Ketan.
Thank you for that, Inatalia, and no doubt this is one of the constituencies we'll be keeping our eye on because there's a change of the guard, and it's very interesting to see whether it will remain an NPP stronghold and Charles Bitsu will walk away with it, or whether the NDC will inch it. Let's go to another constituency that we're keeping our eyes on, and it's the almighty Ayawaso West Wuogon. Central and critical for several reasons. Let's find out. Forgive me, we'll go to Ayawaso Central first and find out how things are unfolding there this morning.
Yes, Kojo, thank you so much. I have been here since 4 a.m. and a lot of people are here. Most of them have been kept outside. I am at ATPC currently at Accra Technical Training College, and you can see this particular premises hosts 7 polling centers. So this is just one of them, as you can see. This is another one. And then I'll attempt to look at extreme end. You will see another one also there. And far behind near their chapel, there's another one. So there are 7 polling centers in this particular place. Kojo, Ayawaso Central is a stronghold of the NPP. Honorable Shekai Sikwe was the one who was holding the fort here until we had Henry Korte taking the seat. And since 1996, this particular seat has been favorable to the MPP. But this year, the NDC candidate Abdulrauf Tubazu, who told me earlier that he's ready to unseat Henry Korte. Now, we have about 193 polling stations here in Ayawaso Central with about 88,000 eligible voters. And most of them, as you can see, have started queuing already. We have the Pentecost also church around, and that also hosts about 6 polling centers. So this place is quite busy, even though they have been told to all stand outside. A lot of them keep coming in. You can see the electoral officers ensuring that, sorry for this taxi, ensuring that all the materials that they have received are all being well packaged, sorted out. Some people are just here observing the scene, and this is a place to watch because in our constituency watch with Carlos Kaloni, if you remember, he was at Malata, he was at Nima, and most of the candidates, most of the electorates told him that they want to, let me say it exactly as they said it, they want to change because of how the economic hardship has really affected them. So everyone is wild here. And if you remember in 2020, the situation that happened here, the NDC said there was their claim, they were leading, they don't know what happened. And then the seat just overturned. So they are very wild, everybody is wild here. The electoral officers are ensuring that everything is well done. The party agents are all here, taking all the details that they have to do. How are you? Good morning. You're live on Joy News. What's your name? My name is Cynthia Jewa. Cynthia Jewa. Which station are you representing? Ayawaso. But are you a polling agent? Yes. For which particular party? MPP. Okay. So what have you been doing exactly?
Yeah, recording the
You are recording the serial numbers. Okay. Yes. And as you can see, Cynthia is recording the serial numbers. She has it all here so that by the end of the day, she will be able to collate and ensure that everything that she came to see is the exact number that she's taking at the end of the day to her party. And what's your name, sir? You're live on Joy News. What's your name? Bright. What station are you also? Which particular party? MPP. Okay. So how are you also ensuring that everything that you are writing and noting down comes all to fruition at the end of the day? Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Any mistake? Okay. And are you satisfied with the process so far? So far, you're satisfied. Okay, so we see the security officers here. Setting up is still ongoing.
Right. Of course, that was Ayawaso Central, hive of activity as all of the observers and those preparing to vote are gearing up for a big day. Now, listen, while all of this is happening in the constituencies and at the polling stations, well, an interesting aspect of an election day is also evolving. I want to take you now to the Circle Bus Terminal, where lots of Ghanaians resident here in Accra are getting ready to travel to their voting centers and make it in time to cast their vote before the end of today. It's hustle and bustle, and our very own Michael Papani is at the center of it. Michael, tell us how Circle is coming alive this morning.
Circle, and clearly it's a busy terminal as always, except that today you may see a lot of buses, but they're in short supply as well. You wouldn't believe that. And in Nkoko bus, short, very small bus just left here. A very long bus has also just left for Kumasi. But there are many people who are not able to find the buses to the exact places that they are looking for. I mean, this bus has been sitting here for about 5 minutes now. Just about 3 people already sitting inside of it, waiting for the opportunity, possibly to go back to their hometowns to vote. Hello, good morning. Okwahe. So she's just telling me that she's going to Himan, where she's going to vote as expected, though. There's some people in the vehicle that are also waiting. But there's some people here who are looking for some buses and are not finding it. Let me try and get closer to some distant. Bossman, good morning, that is saying. Now, who are the one who car go baby? Okwahe. Nkoko. Is that Nkoko can see the 2 year?
Meba na yema. Timetrain car for.
Okay, na mbisa so Nkoko kwa kwede. Ukotoaba. Na dintina dadada ba kwa na ndra holiday antina wanko.
Ejuma 70.
Na bibia de muze uni bia ukotoaba uni bibia ukoko bibia.
Sure.
You already made up your mind?
Sure.
All right. So what's your name?
I'm George. George.
George. Okay, so that's George telling me that he's looking for a vehicle to Nkoko, and he's not getting one. He has to wait for some time. One of the drivers will possibly have to reconsider that decision and decide to go towards his direction before he possibly may get one. But there are longer vehicles like this. These buses are here as well that are also loading lots of people. They're expecting many people to come, although people are not coming in their numbers as well. Those who are here waiting will not get the opportunity to sit in some of the buses that are also around here. So this bus, I am told, is now loading to go to Kumasi. Right, this bus is going to Kumasi, right? Exactly. So this bus is going to Kumasi. And already, some individuals are sitting in the vehicle. Let's try and find out, engage their response quickly. Then we leave here. So it's quite an empty bus, but I see three people at least already inside. Boss, good morning. That's saying. Now going. Now going on. Uko voti. I didn't know about Uko voti.
Like, said about also be a coach and
So he's also just telling me that he's managed to come through the bus now so that he can participate as a citizen of Ghana, exercise his franchise and make sure that he's part of the process to electing the next president of Ghana. Yeah, so that is definitely the mood here. Some people are struggling to get a vehicle. Others will have to wait a little because majority of the people left yesterday for their various hometowns to participate in the December 7 poll. So, Kojo, really, it will be a very long day, especially for those who have to wait for these buses to get full. They're hoping to get to their villages or their hometowns in time so that truly they can exercise the franchise. We'll be moving to some other places and we'll definitely get the mood and bring you up to speed on that as well.
Annie, thank you very much for that. And this is why we are your election headquarters, because we'll bring you every aspect of how this election is affecting Ghanaian life. We wish all of these travelers Godspeed as they seek to reconnect with their places of registration so they can cast their vote. Now, of course, back here in the studio, we've been having a conversation with Professor Baffour Agyeman Dua. He's a governance expert with years of experience, and he's been giving us his impressions of how the process is gearing up for this all-important election 2024. Now, Prof, before we did the quick whip round, you were talking about you know, the role of the military and how the system itself and process has been set up. But this is an election. It's a popularity contest. In the end, somebody must win.
That's correct.
Do you think we have the usual two-horse race, or could this be the year of the third force's emergence?
Certainly, this is not the year for the third force emergence. It could be in the coming years. I think it's going to be the two-horse race, no doubt. The two dominant parties, people are now referring to this as a duopoly that we have. They're still dominant, and I think it's going to go to one of them. Which one gets it, I don't know. Or even if I have my own idea, I have to keep it for now. But certainly...
Do you think it'll be close, though? Or will there be quite a clear margin?
Two things. From what I hear, there could be a runoff or just first round technical knockout by one of them. It depends on the mood of the electorate. What you hear, again, depends on who you talk to, especially in the urban center like Accra. A lot of people seem to talk about change, the necessity for change. But Accra is not just Ghana, mind you. Of course, it's a huge area in terms of population, but there are other heavy population-centered areas in the country. So it's difficult to tell outright how it's going to be. So maybe the better candidate will win.
Yeah. I mean, Joy News's analysis indicates that it's as always, a numbers game, and the two regions with the big numbers, the Greater Accra and the Asante region, are going to be key in this race.
Sure.
But the 5 regions of the north of Ghana are also turning into quite a big battleground. To your mind, what might be some of the factors that would determine how things unfold there?
The northern regions, you know, our leading candidates both happen to come from the region. And without playing the religious game, mind you, it's also predominantly Muslim, even though there's a heavy concentration of Christians. You know, I'm very familiar with the topography of the northern sector. Like the western part, well, let me say that.
We don't mind a quick demographic lesson.
Exactly. The western part, predominantly Christian and all. From Boli all the way to the west side, you know. So with the two candidates, both coming from that sector, it's going to be an interesting election, unlike any of those that we have witnessed. I think it's hard to predict how that region will be split between the two leading candidates. I think each of them may have some strong hold in certain areas of the region. But totality of their voters, certainly in terms of numbers, may not compare to the two big regions that you mentioned earlier, the Greater Accra and the Ashanti region. So overall, I think it's going to be one of the keenest contested elections, despite what appears to be the yearning for change and all that. I think in most people's minds, those two factors will be very influential in making them decide where to cast their ballot. So we have to wait and see.
Yeah. Now, Central Region is also an interesting region to keep an eye on. They've tended to be a bellwether region, especially when it comes to the presidential election. They haven't got it wrong yet.
That's right.
Again, this year, interesting factors, interesting candidates in the two front-running parties. What do you think the central regional voter will have at the front of his mind as he or she goes into the ballot booth?
Certainly, the central region is going to be very interesting for one main reason. The vice presidential candidate of the NDC is from that region. If you care to know, by the way, Jane was my classmate at the university, and we've been good friends, yeah. So it's going to be interesting in terms of how they decide their votes. But as you said, it's one of those states that may be called a swing region, because you cannot determine exactly which way they are going to go in any particular election. So maybe the Jane factor could play some interesting role there. We are here to see how effective she has been in getting the people in the region mobilized towards her party. But again, there are certain constituencies in the region that are solidly NPP. I don't know how any of the independent candidates will be cutting into that, because right now the discussion has been just the NDC NPP. But mind you, some of the independent candidates, especially Alan and Nana Bediako, could take some votes away. I don't know whether it's from NDC or NPP, but I think those who are frustrated with the system might decide to look for a neutral person. That's where perhaps Bediako can come up strongly. But with that region for now, I think, again, I would simply say it's going to be an interesting contest in that region, and we don't know who's going to carry the region.
Now, let's actually talk about, if indeed it's still a two-horse race, who might emerge third. And I've heard you mention Nana Kwame Bediako. There are a few other independents and other parties on there. Is it your analysis that perhaps the one performing the best so far is him? What about Alan?
You know, there have been a number of polls, over the past few months in the country. And in most of them, it seems like they tend to rank Bediako third. At times, Alan pops up, but generally, he's been rated third, and Alan goes to the fourth. The rest together, they bunch together at the bottom. So in this particular election, maybe they may not count much. So I think what we've been watching for is whether between Alan and Bediako, who will be coming to the third, and by what margin. Because the ability to pull the voters to their side can be decisive in terms of whether there will be a runoff or not. If they don't pull much, and maybe first round technical knockout may occur, you know. But I think this particular election, if you follow the trend and listen to what people say, any of these two independent candidates may be critical in determining whether it will be a first round victory or we're going to go for a second round.
Do you think the performance of independents in this election will be a significant factor to consider for Ghana's future elections?
Again, listening to the ground, a lot of people are frustrated, at least seems to me, are frustrated with the current status quo. Status quo dominated by the two parties. And I think a lot of people, for the first time, seem to be loudly calling for an alternative to the two parties. So depending on the performance of these independent candidates, that could be something we can look for in the coming years. But of course, if their performance is abysmal, as in the past, then that, again, that dream can dim, okay? So let's see how exciting their entrance to the race will be for voters. Let's see how voters express that frustration that they express in terms of how they vote, maybe jettisoning the two parties and running to any of the independent candidates. All that will determine the future in terms of whether this dream for a third force can truly emerge. At this point, until after the elections, it's hard to again predict.
Prof, I'm loving this conversation. Let's do more. But first, let's take you to the western border of the Greater Accra region, to the Weija Gbawe constituency. Our very own Faustina Safo is there. Faustina, Weija Gbawe is waking up on election day. What's the mood?
Hi, Kojo. It's certainly an exciting mood here at Weija Gbawe. We got here as early as 5 a.m., where we saw individuals lining up to exercise their franchise. Unfortunately, ballot papers from the Municipal Assembly sorting was quite late, as at 6 a.m. they were still doing the sorting. So for most of the polling centers, they'll be receiving their ballot papers a bit late. Now in this constituency, we're expecting some 118,000 people, over that amount, to come out to exercise their franchise. Historically, this constituency, the Weija Gbawe constituency, is a stronghold for the New Patriotic Party. They have occupied the seat since 2004. Now, the parliamentary candidate for this area, many call him the giant slayer, because he took out the incumbent MP, Tina Mensah, with a whopping 736 votes during the last parliamentary primaries for the NPP. And so we're looking forward to him coming to cast his ballot. We're currently at the Weija ITS polling center. And if I would just show you what exactly is happening, the EC officials are currently setting up. Individuals already here. They came in quite early, ready to exercise their franchise. I've been speaking to the campaign manager for the New Patriotic Party, Jerry, to be precise, and he is quite optimistic. The party is eyeing 80% votes in this constituency, and we're here to monitor it all. It's decision day, Kojo, and we're on the grounds till the results are declared.
Faustino, no doubt we'll be hearing more from you as the day unfolds. But let's go across to another rather populous constituency here in the Greater Accra region. Amasaman, our very own Ya Eyisa, has been gathering thoughts of those who are prepping for the big day. Ya Eyisa, what have you learned?
Well, all is set here for today's election, and currently I'm at the Sapema MA1 polling center. Over here we have about 4 polling centers within the Sapema primary or basic school. And you could realize that people have already queued, waiting to cast their ballot. But I was trying to speak to one woman who said she came here as early as 2 a.m. And usually when you get here at that time, or when she comes here at that time, she meets a lot of people queuing and waiting to cast their ballot. But this time around, when she got here like 2 a.m., she only she was the only person around until a gentleman joined or later joined her around, let's say forgive me, like 4 a.m. So I've been trying to speak to her whether she was quite surprised that as of the time she got here, she couldn't meet anybody and she was alone. So if you don't mind, Kwajo, let's speak to her and find out how she has been here from 2 a.m. alone, thinking that there will be a lot of people in the queue waiting to cast their ballot. Madam Pacha, over her time, babe.
2 o'clock.
Na me Pacha, when Nedi Kanya woto aba ana.
Baby.
So over her by 2 a.m. no over 2 nipa saying.
Obi anyha.
Na me Pacha, yeah, tesi. What about 2 a.m.? The entina be sorry 2 a.m. aba.
First no ye be da ha, entina me ba 2 o'clock.
Na ba ya 1 be 2 obi na ya 1 na.
Aye.
And she says, "See, bad time, bad and nipa kakra ya, omudi echi be join yen."
Me ba 2 something no, na boy no suba 2:30.
Oh, okay. So Kwajo, you had for yourself. It looks that, indeed, she thought that as usual, people queue here a lot. So coming in at 2 a.m. and meeting only one person, or coming to wait until one person came around 4 a.m., she was quite surprised. So while waiting, you could see that the polling officials are waiting with the party agents trying to take stock or take data of the number of the ballot boxes and details so that they can actually render account after the ballot in the center.
Yeah, thank you for that. And wow, the early bird certainly catches the worm. 2 a.m. Goodness. All right, we can now go a bit further afield to Tamale North. This is a constituency that's being monitored by our very own Martina Bugri. Martina, good morning to you and all the lovely people of Tamale North. How is election day shaping up? Right. I suspect that we're having a bit of a communication problem with Martina. Martina, your earpiece might not be very helpful to you. But listen, take it away if you can hear us. Tell us how Tamale North has woken up on election day. Right. We will take you back to Tamale North for Martina's update once we've sorted out the technical issue there. But look, it's all kicking off everywhere across the country. Martina, can you hear us now? Right. We must ask your forgiveness. We are having a bit of a technical issue connecting to Martina Bugri, but we're working on it. We'll get you up to Tamale North as soon as we can. Prof, I mean, some dedication there. 2 a.m. queuing up to vote. What do you think the voter turnout is going to be like? Do you see a certain invigoration of the electorate?
Yes, because I think there are very strong sentiments from people about this particular election. Either they are looking for a change or they want to retain the present party in power. But to wake up at 2 a.m., that's extraordinary. It shows you the extent to which Ghanaians love their democracy, exercising their right to determine who rules us, which is good for us. And many people, in fact, on my way here listening to the radio, people woke up at 2, 3, they've been in the line until they are still waiting for 7 o'clock to cast their ballot. So that is really great on the part of Ghanaians. But it shows again the importance of this particular election. You see, when one side say, I'm going to break the 8, and the other said, no, we're not going to allow you to break the 8, they are significant. Because so far, these two parties have been enjoying 8 years in power, anytime they come to power. So if for the first time, one is seeking to break that convention, you can understand the anxiety of the opposition on this. And that perhaps invigorated them to do their campaigns and Of course, with everything else taken into account, a lot of people are also anxious to see whether this breaking the 8 will occur. So I'm not surprised that people are waking up this early. The first time I saw that was back in 2000 when the elections of Agyekum Kufuor took place. That was again a very exciting moment for Ghanaians. But that's about 24 years ago, right? 24 years ago. Almost.
In fact, 2000, so yes, 24 years ago.
My goodness, time flies. So now people are still looking to be at the polling station by 4 a.m. Again, the commitment of Ghanaians to this democratic experiment, I think, is a very strong one. Just that we have to find a way to fine-tune how we practice democracy to make it more meaningful in terms of making it productive, satisfying the material needs of people. So far, we've been successful having elections despite some incidents here and there, but we have not been very successful in translating electoral successes into development successes. That is a real challenge for us.
Yeah, well, certainly we're hoping that this election will inch us closer to overcoming that challenge. This is your election headquarters. We're live on Joy News, we're live on Joy FM, and we're live around the world. Wherever you are, you can catch us on YouTube or even live on our social media platforms. There is an X-Space conversation going on right now that you can be a part of, and it's all about our preparation and gearing up for this election. Professor Bafo Agyeman-Duah is our guest this morning as we analyze all the possible permutations that could emerge at the end of this process. I'm going to ask you to do a bit of crystal ball gazing now. Don't worry, I won't ask you who you think will win the election. But how soon do you think we'll know?
Actually, with the technologies that people have, I will not be surprised that by midnight, some may have a clear idea about the trend, whether it's towards victory or loss. But officially, we wouldn't know until the next day, Sunday, maybe by 10 or 12. But of course, it depends. For the Electoral Commission, they may have to wait and make sure all the dots are on the I's and the T's are crossed. Everything is reported before they do the official announcement. But I think for the political parties and those IT-savvy people, because the system as we have it makes it possible for you to know whether you have won or lost in about 8 hours after the game is played, you know. And that's why I'm thinking that people should be calm, okay? So far as we don't get any egregious problems in terms of ballot stuffing or cheating and that kind of stuff, I think the election can be fair in that respect, and therefore, if you know the results going to go against you, you don't necessarily find a way to instigate negative reactions, you know. So I think overall, with the technology, as I say, by midnight to early morning, parties, the political parties in particular, will know where they stand.
Prof, one of the big plug-ins to any election is the media.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on the media's contributions so far and the role they are required to play in the coming hours?
Overall, the media has been great in this process, even though we have to also say that in some instances, some journalists have not been very fair to the system by deliberately picking on negativities and blowing them up out of proportion. That has not been the best part of our practice. But I can say that there have been some, I don't need to mention names, I guess. There have been some media houses that have been very, very professional, and I think that is good for us. The media, as you know, we like to say is the fourth estate, and it's true. You really represent the people to cross-check government for us. And believe it or not, majority of people in most countries do believe in what they hear from the media. That's why it's so important, if you're a journalist, you're working for any media house, you got to be sensitive to that, that people are listening to you. Your words can move people into certain direction. You know the story of Rwanda. The full name of the radio station that was at the center, Mille Collines. It's called Mille Collines. No, Mille Collines.
Yes.
That's the radio station. It was. It played a critical role in the genocide that took place in that country in the early 90s.
Yeah.
So it's very important for journalists to always be mindful of what they say and how they say it, because ultimately you are influencing the minds of millions of people.
Right.
So in this election, I'm hoping that they will be mindful of that.
Thank you so much. Prof, it's getting exciting. Hold on to your seats because the polls are about to open across the country. Mama V and Evans are in the Joy News studio with an eagle eye of everything. Guys, it's about to go down.
Well, Kojo, you're right. It's about to go down because right about now, it is 7 a.m. The advertised time for polls to open in all 276 constituencies in this presidential and parliamentary elections. And right here at Joy News, your election headquarters, we are with you every step of the way. We are tracking every vote from the start of the polls to the final count, from the central region's swing seat to Greater Accra's close context. Every region matters. This is election morning right here on your election headquarters. Get ready as we touch base with our reporters scattered across the country. And as polls open, we quickly want to go to the northern region. My colleague Martina Bugri is in Tamale North right now. Martina, polls are expected to open at 7 a.m. It is 7. What's happening? Where are you?
I am at the Four Village Polling Center. They are setting up to begin the polls. I must say that it's a very cold morning here in Tamale. But lots of people are already out to cast their vote. I engaged an elderly woman here, asking why the elderly women have come out so early. She says that on election day, there is nothing like cold. They are able to withstand the cold and cast their vote. I will take you around the center so that you can see how things are panning out in the Tamale North constituency.
Yeah, Martina.
So, Mama,
Go on,
yes.
Martina.
We have two contenders for this center, this constituency. We have Alhassan Suhuyini, who is contesting for the NDC, and Abdurrahman Alidu, who is contesting for the MPP. I must tell you that these are two young men, I would say, who are contesting. In the region here, they have been described as the young men for the various constituencies that are contesting this election. Now, as you can see, people are queued out already, waiting to cast their vote. And let me tell you, this morning, the weather seemed very, very cold. When I was leaving the house, it was very cold, but I got here and people were already lined up waiting to cast their votes. And so as we are waiting for the Electoral Commission to get set for them to vote, we will be engaging some of the people in the queue to understand why they came in so early to cast their votes.
Yeah,
that's
Martin.
Yes, Baba Vic, you go ahead.
Yeah, I just quickly want to ask you, when you say you're waiting for election officers to get set, what exactly do you mean? Are they there?
Yes, so the officers are right here, but they are setting up, sorting out, and taking statistics to begin the voting process here at the Four Village.
All right, Martina, we'll return to you in a bit, but let's go to Jomoro, where we have Daniel Bafo on standby. Daniel, I'm afraid we've lost Daniel. We will touch base with Daniel in Jomoro in a bit, but let's go to James Aveji, who is in Ayawaso West Wuogon constituency. That's a constituency to watch. A lot happened during the special voting. James, it's 7 a.m. Are people voting?
Well, Mama V, where I am currently stationed at the Valco Trust hostel, not so much is happening, but the people, students are now warming up slowly to the big day ahead of us here at the University of Ghana campus. And I know that around the Mensa Sabah Hall setup has already been done. Students already queuing up for that. But here at the Valco hostel, the EC officials just finished the inspection of all of the ballot boxes together with the parliamentary candidates and the party agent who are present here. And so all is set up here ready for voting to start in a few minutes. Now, let me tell you that this constituency is, as you said, is a one to watch in the election, and the small republic of, I call it small republic of the University of Ghana, is one of those places who make huge statements as far as the Ayawaso West Wuogon constituency is concerned. The good news is that in this election, students are on campus. A larger portion of the students from level 200 to 400 are in school now, except level 100 will be coming to school in January. And a chunk of those students will be voting on campus here. We know that, especially in the parliamentary elections, it usually goes in favor of the NPP. But this time around, where a little over 150,000 constituents are expected to cast their vote. We don't know how it will be turning, considering the fact that the NDC's parliamentary candidate, John Dumelo, is a big shot in this particular election, going the third time. He won the first time during the by-election in 2020, leading up to the major election, went into the major election, lost to the current MP, Lydia Seram Al-Hassan, and going the third time against her. And of course, the NP also going the third time. This constituent here at the University of Ghana are very important to the two of them. We've seen them make frequent visits to the University of Ghana campus, make visits to the various hostels with donations here and there amongst the two parties. And especially with what we saw on the special voting day, with the two of them actively involved in the activities on campus. We expect to see more of that in the course of the day. And so the over 150,000 constituents will be making statements. Let me take you on a quick journey to the presiding officer who used things to get things in order before voting starts in a few minutes. Thanks so much for your time. You live on Joy News. Tell us about yourself.
Yeah, my name is Moses Mozart Agbenyu, the presiding officer of Valco Trust Polling Center. Yes.
I've just seen you do a quick check with the party agent with the ballot. The IU for today.
Yes, I think I've checked on the party agent. They are all here, and so far you can see our center is well set, and then we are ready. Our ballot issuers, verification officers, they are all there, and then we are ready. In fact, we are ready to start with voting.
How many people do you expect to cast vote at your center here? I'm pretty sure you don't expect anything beyond 700, because from the EC, no polling station is expected to have voters beyond 700. But it's been a slow start so far. You expect huge turnout as we get into the voting period in just a few minutes.
Exactly. We've been issued with 370 ballot papers. That is presidential as well as parliamentary. So we are expecting at least 350 going voters to vote at this very station. Yes, so for now, I think we are starting with the voting, and we are expecting that from now going, people will come to the center to vote.
Thank you. And so, Mama V, that's the presiding officer for the Valco Hostel polling station here at the University of Ghana Legon campus. And we expect a lot of activity to be happening when voting starts in a few minutes. We'll be traveling to other parts of the constituency, especially Baleshi School Park, as well as Abilingpe areas and other polling stations. But as far as the University of Ghana is concerned, this is what is happening here. A chunk of them are expected to vote today, and they'll be making a huge statement in the Ayawaso West Wuogon elections. As to how this campus goes, you should be sure that that is how exactly the rest of the constituency is going to go. Remember that this is where the coalition center is as well. The RS Amegashi Auditorium is where all of the coalition will be happening for the parliamentary as well as the presidential votes. And so that's what we have here from the University of Ghana campus in the Ayawaso West Wuogon constituency. Mama V.
All right. Thank you very much, James Aveji. And one of the things we'll be looking out for, whether food will be shared, whether candidates will be interacting with voters in the queue today. We'll return to James in the course of the day, but let's go to Adenta now. Another constituency that we're keeping an eye on, will the NDC be able to retain this seat again? Kweku Asante is a man on the ground. Kweku, are people voting yet?
Mabavi, the polls haven't opened yet, but the electoral officials tell us that they are just about ready to get to the specifics of this. And this is Adenta community here at Adenta. There are about 6 polling stations at this particular venue, and all of them getting ready to actually start casting their vote. There's a little bit of a melee here because there's a little sort of a misunderstanding as to where, who are going to vote. Because a lot have changed since the last election when the polling stations were much closer. But this time around, the Electoral Commission seemed to have decentralized the process, and more constituencies, polling stations, I should say, have been created sort of to try and get very little numbers at every single polling station for these persons to go out there and vote. And we'll speak pretty shortly to some of the voters and the electoral officials who are hustling to try and get people to understand. Because people are coming here for the first time and getting to know that their polling stations have been changed a little bit, although they are still expected to be here. There is a misunderstanding as to are they supposed to be in polling station A, B, C, or D? And so the polling officials have to be going through, taking their ID cards, trying to understand where exactly they are and what exact changes they have been assigned to. And you're talking earlier on about how tough this constituency will be. Over the last few elections, this constituency has sort of been a bellwether constituency in terms of whoever wins normally wins the presidency. And so that has been sort of the analysis until 2020, which was an aberration of a sort because NDC won with Ademu Ramadan, but the NDC still lost the presidency. In terms of the parliamentary, Ademu Ramadan came back to win with 63,000 votes, 55%, in 2020 as against the incumbent Yabo Abiya Samoa, who garnered about 49,000 votes. It was such a big gap. This time around, Kozi of Adenta is trying to come in and actually upset the stage and take the seat from the NDC. And so that is how big Adenta constituency has become. In the last few days, there's been a lot of road construction, a lot of actions by the government to try and see if they can win. And so this polling station issues is being dealt with. So let me speak to some of the voters here and try and get an understanding of how things are going. I'll try and speak to some of the voters here and get an understanding as to how smooth this process is going for them. Daddy, well, I've enjoyed you. See if I could briefly speak to you about your experiences you came here this morning, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, how has it been so far?
It has been so peaceful, so quiet. We decided to assist and we have a queue and we realized that it's supposed to start from the polling station code is C270705 and we had 0705 up to 10 and we realized that whoever is 705 is to be on line complex 1. So we did arrange. So this line, if you check their ID number, everyone is ending 05. Then we have 06, we have 07, up to 10. So the 10 are those that have moved them here. And it has been very smooth and peaceful. And I pray that we'll have a smooth casting of our votes. And
your queue number seems to have fallen. Yeah. So people have actually come in here with queues. Yeah.
No, we came here very early. Some came 2 o'clock, 2 a.m. Some came. So this is identifying those who are coming in as early as that. That's why we used to arrange the lines that you see. Yes, please.
Thank you. It appears your queue is moving to the other side.
I know where I am.
Great. All the best. All the best today. So, I mean, they are helping themselves to try and get an understanding of how exactly this process is going, to try and help themselves. There are about 6 polling stations here that in this enclave, and all of them are expected to vote. And the electoral officials have been very busy, and none of them have been willing to speak to us because they themselves are trying to sort out these ballot issues. A lot of people have come in here only to realize that the constituency, the polling stations have been broken down into multiple fronts, and that is what they have to sort out and ensure that that is going to be done. We expect that a member of parliament will vote at about 10 a.m. That is the same indication we are getting for Madam Akosua Menu, who is the NPP parliamentary candidate, who is seeking to unseat Ademu Ramadan from this constituency. It's a big ask because it's almost 15,000 votes from the 2020 election, and Akosua Menu says she is going to break that, and she's working assiduously to do that. And so, Mama V, that is the situation at Adenta. Polling is just about to start. The electoral officials are ready, and in fact, they are just about ensuring that every person who is required to vote here gets to be in the appropriate line and get ready to vote at 7 o'clock when polling was expected to start. It's 14 minutes past that. It still hasn't started, not because of any lack of material or any unpreparedness, but generally because the Electoral Commission is trying to get things underway. And let's come here a bit close, because it appears some of the persons in the queue seem to have moved in. The ballot papers are being torn and given it to the voters who are just getting ready. So pretty shortly, I'm sure in the next 1 minute, we'll get the first voter in this set of polling stations in Adenta here to vote. That is the elderly woman whose ballot papers are being folded and given to her to get set and then go out there and go and vote. Mama V.
All right, Kweku Asante, thank you very much for the report. It's election morning, Kweku reporting from Adenta, where, as you can tell, if you're watching or listening to radio, voting has just begun. Let's go to Ablekuma North. Jacqueline Asumayeboa is on standby. Jacqueline, good morning. Tell us exactly where you are in Ablekuma North and whether or not voting has started. Jacqueline, you would have to unmute.
I am at Ablekuma North constituency, precisely the Apostolic Church, one of the polling centers right here. I mean, it has polling stations. I mean, it has about 4 centers right here, and voting hasn't started. But then speaking to some of the voters earlier, some of them came here as early as 3 a.m. to form their queues. And I mean, I spoke to a certain man earlier who said that he slept here last night just to cast his vote this morning. As I'm speaking to you right now, voting hasn't kick-started yet. We have most of the voters outside. There's a long queue outside. There's a very long queue outside here. As you can see, most of the voters have been here since. I've been here since 5 a.m. and most of these voters are still here waiting to cast their ballots. It's still 7:16 and we still haven't heard from them. The presiding officers are still sorting out most of their materials before we kickstart. But then this area, we have 2 female candidates, and one from the NDC, one from the MPP. None of the other parties are contesting here. And for the NDC, we have Nana Epia Owusu Afriye, and she is representing the MPP. Last year, Sheila Battles won, but then this year, we have Nana Epia Owusu Afriye contesting for the MPP, and we also have Rabna Oben for the NDC in this area. But this area too, we have 127,000 registered voters. That is the number of voters that are expected to be in the Ablekuma North constituency. And we have about 280 polling stations. I've been to others where they've also not started. But then along the line, I'll be moving to other polling stations to find out more on what is going on there.
And that's Jacqueline reporting from Ablekuma North for us this morning. Let's go to the Ashanti region, Menchia North to be precise. Emmanuel Bright Kweku is standing by. Good morning to you, Emmanuel. Where in Menchia North are you?
So, Mama B, as we speak now, I am at Borough Market at the Menchia North constituency. And in just a few minutes, we've had some of the voters cast their ballots and this process happens so far. They are trying to sort out issues that regarding to some people who were unfortunately they were in maybe a police station A or police station B. That's the Borough Market 1 and Borough Market 2. So they had to bring somebody whose name was not found just to join the queue to cast his ballot. So here are the Menchia North constituency, precisely at the Borough Market stations 1 and 2. The process has been so fast, but as indicated, the Menchia North constituency has been a safe seat for the NPP over the years since it was created in 2012, since Collins Amankwa took over, and then now we are having the incumbent MP for the area, that's Akwesi Nkrumah, also winning the seat for the 2020 election. But coming into the 2024 election, he will meet his competitor who met him in 2020, that's Hamza Swala, and they are poised for action. Ahmed Hamza wants to unseat Akwesi Nkrumah for the first time in this particular constituency. And so for here, we are expecting some over 71,000 voters to cast their ballots in the entire Menchia North constituency. And as you can see behind me, we are having some of the voters going to cast their ballots. But I'll quickly try and engage with a few of them and see if, find out from them what their expectations generally for the voter exercise is. And I have a gentleman here with me to quickly interact with him on how he makes so. Daddy, good morning. Daddy, na uba habe tambena apina.
Pacho me pa na is state. Ya fina postere bien ya shasa ya balot.
Ba then I should say dia parliamentary candidate are over Swamana, which me upon the 18 of Swamana na presidential candidate.
Oh, stebe ya no be person na ibinya peace work my na mo tina mai. If you ever be there, you can say na asu François. It's na idea as they were. Stebe ya man be because my man the future. That should be a more fun or more ban. Which me nya the 5 for mine.
Sure. And so me pacho dini ade.
The film Solomon Chinapo.
Sure. And so that's Mr. Solomon explaining to us why we put it for a particular candidate here at the Menchia North. Let me quickly interact with my gentleman here. Hello, good morning. How are you? Okay, so let me find out from you. You are about, what age are you?
20 years.
20 years. So going, what would inform your reason to vote for somebody or your any parliamentary candidate?
If I'm going to a assume into number better.
I'm going to assume G. At the identity now to Apano and Fansibia. What you say, be an identity now?
Okay. You must say, Enya, Ejma Ghana, and Tinep say it for Aban.
Right, thank you very much. And so, Mama, that's a voter there who is hoping that his candidates can bring some development to the constituency. That's the Menchia North constituency. So, as you can see behind, the process is so fast here at the Borough Markets 1 and 2 polling stations in the Menchia North constituency. We'll be moving on to other places. We expect the parliamentary candidate for NPP, that's Akwesi Nkrumah, to cast his ballot somewhere at the Baptist, Walkroom Baptist. And so we're going there to capture him and have his view on the entire process. And so, Mama, this is what is currently happening here at the Borough Markets 1 and 2.
For the reports, Emmanuel Bright Kweku, Menchia North, reporting for us this morning. Some of the polling stations, voting is underway. But what's happening in Suhum? Ohene Amponsa is standing by for us. Ohene, good morning. Where in Suhum are you and what have you observed?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Ohene, where are you in Suhum and what's happening?
Hello?
Ohene, we can hear you. If you can hear me, tell us where you are and what's happening.
If you can hear me, currently I'm at the Suhum Newtown Basic School. We have gone through the constituency. We've gone through some polling centers. And most of the time we got here around 5:30. We met some people queuing. And for them, voting early was something that they have actually dreamt of. They want to do that early so that they can do other things that they want to do during the day. The voting actually started. Materials were delivered on time. For instance, at Aikoche polling center, we went to Ahibrom polling center, and then also police station polling centers. And all these centers have received their materials. Currently, we are at Newtown Basic School. The first person actually cast her vote at exactly 7 a.m. The process is ongoing. It's a very, very smooth one. You don't see any interference from any other person. The presiding officer at this particular polling center, by the name Ebenezer Boatin, tells me that everything has been handled quite well. And but let's continue. Let me talk to the first person that cast her vote at this particular polling center. Mami, your friend was saying na DNT and na uba hanopa to sanopa tutu na uba beto waba wase. Kasa den kakra.
The family is better day. It's me person me try man drink kakra. And until me solely be 5 o'clock and I'm over. My better my papa to make up.
Uba ye no omo do for process ni sign it here.
Oh, me buy and me better ni pa ba ko pe. And ko na me ba no be me and some ko share for price ko jale and
so you heard Elizabeth. She happens to be the first person that cast her vote this morning at this particular area. The second person also happens to be with me here. What's your name and why did you come this early?
Oh, my name is Evangelist Apreku. The reason is now we are deciding to have our president for the entire nation, Ghana. So that's the reason I wake up early in the morning so that I'll have a chance to vote to go and continue my other works that in the other house.
So you think that after casting your vote, you're going home, we are expecting you to be here in the evening?
Yeah, that's my vision. I'll be going home so that I'll be here in the evening around 5 o'clock to monitor what will be going on, to see who is the winner. And I don't think if someone is a loser, he's not a loser for the Ghana. Ghana is a winner and the Ghana is a loser.
Thank you.
We have and I am appreciating the EC officials. We have not seen any misunderstanding and they are smiling, doing everything possible.
Thank you very much. And so you heard one of the voters that actually cast his vote early this morning here at Suhum Newtown Basic School. I can tell you that since yesterday when we came, we went through town. The town was calm. We had some members, some supporters of various candidates were locked up in rooms and trying to seek divine intervention and calling on the Almighty God for their candidates to win. In fact, yesterday we spoke to some supporters of the incumbent MP who happens to be somebody who actually ran on the ticket of the New Patriotic Party, but this time around, he's going as an independent candidate. We also spoke to Frank Esiedu Bekwin supported. He is the PC on the ticket of the New Patriotic Party. And then also we spoke to Prince Ado, who is also running on the ticket of the NDC. I can say that even though all eyes are here on Suhum, but I can tell you that it is very calm. The processes are ongoing. Let me finally run up with the presiding officer at this particular polling center, Ebenezer Boatin. Yes, welcome to Joy News. What has been the process since morning as I came and I saw you going through your box and everything? What so far how's the process going?
Oh, by God's grace, everything is very cool. We came here early around 3:30 a.m. and we started putting things up. And for now, before 7 o'clock, everything was set up.
political party agents? Are they cooperating?
Yes, they are all cooperating. We don't have any difficulty now.
You have your materials and everything.
Everything
They've seen your numbers and then they observe your document and they think everything is okay. Yeah, so this is how things are actually going on. Thank you very much for talking to us. So this is actually how things are going on right here at Sum constituency. We are actually moving into the hinterland. I have actually gone to places like Okanta, which is also a bit distant from the municipality. We've gone to Kwabena-Kumi, which is also a distance from the municipality. But I can tell you that here at the Sum constituency, everything is underway and everybody is cooperating, from the political party and their candidate agents, and of course, the electoral commission reps in this constituency.
Thank you very much. Ohene reporting from the Suhum constituency. And Ohene was right when he said all eyes are on Suhum, because something interesting is happening, Evans. This is a candidate who was on the ticket of the NPP, but he goes independent this time around.
And that is one of the constituencies where NPP is in trouble, significant trouble. Why? Because this candidate that he's talking about, and that is Kojo Asante. Remember the controversy in Parliament? The 4 MPs who went independent and caused this whole commotion. He's one of them. He is, if you look at that trend, it tells the story. As far as, and this, by the way, is a safe seat. It is a stronghold of the NPP. And in a stronghold, there are still preeminent candidates. He is one of those preeminent candidates. That's him there. His votes here tell a story. But most importantly, he is the best performing parliamentary candidate for the NPP in Suhum, period. Nobody else comes close. The last time he stood in 2020, he had 64% of the votes. The person who had come close over the period in 2016 had 55% of the votes. Now, in fact, if you put presidential and parliamentary all together, he's the second best performing, both NPP and NDC all together, and include the presidential also in terms of the votes garnered. He's the second best performing candidate there. The only person who came close is John Kufuor, who at the time in 2000 had 65%, right? Mm-hmm. So he's the best performing overall. So this is a formidable candidate in that area, but he's gone independent. What that means is he's certainly going to take out votes from the current parliamentary candidate for the NPP. The Formina scenario is what is going to be playing out here. The NPP is in significant trouble in this area because of his involvement. I know there have been calls made to him to try and step down. It's too late. People are voting. He's on the ballot. This is an area they've always won an MPP. It is very likely, on the back of his inclusion now on the ticket as an independent candidate, that they lose it. Because also of his popularity. And it begs the question, how did it get to this point where your best performing candidate ever in a constituency where you are safe goes independent, that you cannot convince him to change his mind? And that, for me, is a big trouble there for the NPP. And the thing is about him is, he did not only deliver the votes for himself, he did it for Nana Addo too. For Nana Addo too. To the point where Nana Addo is only behind John Kufuor when it comes to performance, right? So this is not somebody you play with, but he's on the ballot today and people are going to be voting for him. He is very popular. If you are the NDC, you are happy. Because you only got 19%, 19,000 votes there. Why? Because of Mr. Asante's dominance. Now that he's taking votes from the NPP, he's going to split the votes possibly, and you're hoping that you can capitalize on that and maybe scrape through. Right.
Well, so the question is, can he win again as an independent candidate?
It's possible.
Without the political party?
It's very possible. Formina teaches us that if you're really a very popular candidate like he is, you can win. Bekwa is another clear example of Joshua Usu. Yes, unhappy with the party, wins and goes independent and wins it, but then reverts. Question is, if he wins, what he decides to do is anybody's game. The next parliament is going to be, again, I don't believe the gap will be that huge for whoever wins, but there will be a clear majority. What he does then is anybody's game. He hasn't won it yet. But history says, in his own background in terms of the overall picture in Suhum, which is a stronghold, says it does significant damage to the MPP.
Kojo Asante is one man to look out for in the Suhum constituency. We'll certainly be returning. But we're going to go back to Studio 997. Kojo Yangsing is standing by with Professor Bafwa Jimanjia, and they are going to continue that conversation. We'll also be checking with our reporters on the ground. This is Election Morning on your election headquarters.
Mama V, thank you. And in fact, thanks to Evans as well for walking us so diligently through the numbers. Prof and I have been enjoying your analysis and, of course, the quick whip around the nation to let us see exactly how things are unfolding. And, Prof, I mean, some constituencies more organized than others, as you would expect. But it would appear that as at 7 a.m., things are pretty much underway, and so far so good, right?
So far so good from the reports we are getting, but we are yet to get a majority stations to determine whether, in fact, generally things have started very well. But as we speak, we haven't gotten any bad story, so to speak. So let's hope that it will be the same. In terms of the starting the process, you know, some of these officers were very good in terms of making sure by 7 o'clock the line is open for them to cast their ballots. And I believe there were many others who were waiting for 7 o'clock before even opening the boxes. That could cause some delay. So we can accommodate all these things. So far as all materials are available, we don't want to hear any story like before, that the indelible ink was in here, so we are waiting, the papers were not here. Those delays, hopefully, should be things of the past. Once that happens, we get everything underway, then I think we are starting on a very strong note.
Yeah. Prof, we've been talking a lot about the presidential election, but of course, today, Ghanaians will choose their parliamentary representatives as well. I think that gives us an opportunity to assess the last parliament, you know, for the first time, you know, equal numbers with just one independent tipping the balance in favor of the NPP and making them the majority. And then, of course, the recent intrigue of the past few months and the Supreme Court and all that. What's your assessment of this exiting parliament?
Perhaps it's been the most dramatic of all in the Republic. You know how it started? They started with a fight.
They did.
They started with a fist fight, you know, something we haven't seen before. And no wonder it's also ended on this kind of drama of not even knowing when Parliament will officially close. Of course, there's an announcement that they'll be meeting again after the elections. But what to do? We are just lucky that we didn't get a strong sense of government business stalling as a result of this. But of course, certain actions that the government must have taken couldn't be taken because some of those actions needed parliamentary approval. So maybe these have been suspended by government. And if that's the case, we haven't had any direct effect on that. In the US, for instance, if there's this kind of situation, the appropriations will stall and government will not have money to pay. You know, but in this case, we are not hearing that. So maybe our system has a provision to plug that. But overall, the hung parliament also has been very educative for all of us. Now we know that when there is a hung parliament, Parliament itself becomes, in a way, a problem in terms of choosing who leads a parliament. This question, the last point you made about the Supreme Court and all that, even the decision as to who is a majority leader and minority leader, that became contentious. As we speak, we don't know whether that case will ever be resolved before this parliament goes out. So this ongoing elections hopefully will resolve this. I'm hoping that whoever wins the presidency should have his party winning the parliament to make government business a little bit more smoother. Not to say that there's no need for parliament to be playing its role of cross-checking the executive, no. But I think having a majority helps, and hopefully the majority that emerges will not be a simple tool for the executive to also do its bidding, because we have seen that before in the past, and that didn't help us. So let's hope that Ghanaians will be decisive in electing a parliament that will be more productive than what we have seen this time.
You know, it occurs to me, just hearing you make that particular point, that if things had gone better with the outgoing parliament, if those close numbers had counted for something and the opposition had actually shown some value and, you know, and been able to be a better check on the executive, we would have called that a step forward.
Correct.
A victory for democracy. Yes. That we can actually have two different parties, one controlling the executive and one controlling parliament, and benefit from it. It didn't work out. So now our conversation is about going back to the way things used to be. Isn't that a pity? I mean, should we not figure out how to do it right? Isn't it part of democracy?
It is, but it's a tough question, Kojo. I think that the winner takes all is partly the problem. You see, when we have a hung parliament in a system which is winner takes all, it empowers the opposition group to really stand up against the executive, because the opposition will always be looking for victory in order to win the coming elections. So the competition and the floor plays and gymnastics they will play will be different. So I think, in my humble opinion, the winner takes all is part of this intense rivalry. At times, people even telling lies as a way to substantiate certain impression they want the public to get, to simply weaken the incumbent party. You know. So I never take out the issue of the winner takes all when it comes to the intense rivalry, the competition that we have, that oftentimes is not helpful for progress. Okay. So whilst I like your point that perhaps it was a nice opportunity for the system to have shown how even in the hung parliament there is this great checks on the executive, and even then, by the way, Kojo, don't you know that even in this instance there were rumors, let me put it that way, that the executive was also able to have his way through parliament. I don't know by what incentives.
We heard those rumors.
Exactly, you see. So if a system is rotten, no matter how you look at it, it could be rotten and not giving you the kinds of stuff that you want. So anyway, but I think that sincerely, this time we should have a clean parliament that will do its duty. And we're all talking about the need to revise the constitution. I know those who are opposed to that. But this idea of a fusion of parliament and the executive is a challenge. It doesn't allow for effective checks on the executive in that respect. So again, if our politicians can be alert to this and they can lead the charge for some reviews of the constitution, we'll all be better for it. But I don't hear that voice is coming strong from the political actors.
I mean, in this election, in every constituency, there will be a parliamentary battle that is likely to influence the presidential outcomes too. Do you see that the political parties have taken enough advantage of this? Have they strategized properly to lead with their parliamentary candidates in building popularity for their presidential across the country?
That's an interesting question, which I haven't really considered. Naturally, we would expect that. I mean, you don't want to have a situation where seeking the presidency runs parallel with the parliamentary. I think there should be fusion, because ultimately, it's the president we are electing who has to run government with parliament. So we cannot, separate the two. But observing this process, the current process, I think there are instances I saw the presidential candidates with the parliamentary candidates on the same platform and championing for them. I didn't see as much as I used to see in the past. Maybe that's why I'm curious about the question. Your observation must be very interesting observation. I didn't see much of it like before. And I don't want to suggest that that implies some kind of a division or anything of the sort between the line of parliamentarian candidates and the presidential candidate in either of the parties. It's just that I didn't see as much as I used to see in the past, where the two were together and making sure they win together.
Yeah, I think the numbers will start to reveal more of the answer to that question as the day unfolds.
Precisely.
Prof, let's talk about running mates. I know. You know, you've already explained that you're good friends with one of them.
I don't hide things. That's true.
That's why we like you, Prof. But you're also objective. We know that. We know that about you.
Yeah.
So let's talk about. I mean, it's a two-horse race as you've analyzed. So let's look at the two big running mates. Your assessment of Napo versus Prof Jane.
Kojo, I think there's not much room for putting the two together. They are two separate individuals in all respects, politically, wherever. I mean, Jane comes from an academic background, very strong academic background, I can say. She was in the States when I met her as a Fulbright professor, and doing some fantastic things there. It's a solid academician. I know that for a fact. And very professional and well exposed, I should say. Because when he was, I think, a deputy minister, he became one of the board members of, I think, UNESCO.
Right.
So he's been exposed. But of course, people might say he may not be fiery, you know. People expect that, but that's not her. But when she speaks, I think she speaks with passion and quite with some strength, you know, in her convictions. So I think she's a very solid candidate. And I think she can do very well in the role that, if she gets that role, she will do very well. And Napo is a different person. I think he's quite rambunctious. He is known to be that. He's loud in many ways, also strong in his own area as a medical officer. He's been in government, he knows people, he's been exposed and all. But I do not know in both cases how much these candidates are going to bring.
That's actually what I'm thinking about. I mean, how do we compare their contributions to their respective tickets?
Precisely. It's hard to tell. Because normally, these elections are for presidents, not for vice presidents. So I think vice presidents are normally careful in how they even carry themselves, because you cannot upstage the candidate, just as if you are elected vice president. No, if you come as vice president, you cannot upstage the president. So I think it's a check, self-imposed, I should say, on these vice presidential candidates. In this campaign, sure, all of them have been around, they're talking. And as I say, I cannot say exactly how they are going to influence the votes. But I think those who prefer a woman candidate, as some people clamor for, will be inclined to see Jane as an asset to the NDC. And those who think otherwise might do otherwise, on the other hand. You know, so overall, I think the candidates made their choices, let the people decide, and then we go on.
Yeah. I mean, we know that the NPP has set itself a target of raking in more than 80% of the Asante region.
NDC?
NPP.
Okay.
The NPP.
Okay.
Forgive me. Did I say NDC?
Maybe I didn't hear it right, so it's not your fault.
The NPP is what I mean. That's their goal, and it's important to them. And you can see that they are hoping that at least it's one of the things that their choice of running mate will achieve. I mean, let's go one by one. Let's deal with the NPP first. What do you think? Is that going to be something that their running mate can deliver to them?
Because all these are speculations, anything we say here.
Yeah.
I think the NPP believes that somebody from that region, certainly like you said, looking for 80% or so of the vote, certainly somebody from that region will help in achieving that. I think that was the basis for that decision that they made. And by and large, I think Napo is quite popular in the region. And therefore, in some ways, will bring some real credit to the campaign. Again, since the central region is a swing region, it's possible that Professor Jane will also help in this time flipping it for the NDC. So I think each of them brings certain things to the table, you know. But you see, all these are interesting analysis. But overall, people are looking, the bottom line in elections is what? People's well-being, how they are fared in the past and how a government they perceive to have been helpful in terms of attaining their objectives in life. So it will come down to that. So I don't put much premium on how much these vice presidential candidates will bring to the ticket. Even though, as I say, coming from this region, Ashanti or coming from the central region, could influence some voters to vote that way.
Very interesting, Prof. There's more for us to discuss. But right now, we have a legend on the other side of the connection. Israel Laye is an Adenta. Israel, good morning to you. And my goodness, this must be, what, your 5th, 6th election? How's Adenta looking in the first hour of election 2024?
It's my 7th election, the 7th election that I'm covering. So
7th.
If people are going to the World Cup, I've been to the World Cup like 7 times. Okay, so yeah, we're here in the Adenta constituency, and it's a pretty bougie community. The Cabley Clear Academy polling station. There are 2 polling stations here. They're pretty bougie. We don't have a lot of people in the queue, and I just pan so you get to see. There are not too many people in the queue. So, and the process has been quite smooth for the people who have come through here. I also actually came here to vote myself. I have voted, so you see so the process is such that you come in and then they'll check. There's one of the officials, CC officials, who go through the queue and tell you which polling booth station you're supposed to go. There's A and B, and then they'll direct you to go there. You go, and then they'll verify, take your card, they will verify, voter ID card, they'll verify you. Once they verify you, they give you the ballot paper. You go through the process. And I've seen the ballot paper. It's pretty long because we have a lot of aspirants on there. That's for the presidential. For the parliamentary, it's quite short. There's about 4 people here. In Adenta constituency. Go through the process. There's not been any issue. There was an issue of one ballot paper supposed to be in another booklet or repeated in another booklet. But the party agents here had the conversation with the EC officials and they resolved it. So there's not really much of an issue here. Voting has been smooth, and we're expecting to go very well with that incident.
Coverage from the Electoral Commission later in the day when numbers start pouring in. 7th election, my goodness. Israel is an institution, isn't he? Yeah.
What beard?
Yeah.
I see. He was a young man like
that
you.
Was many elections ago.
Yes. Yeah.
Now, Prof, let's talk about the significance of this election internationally and what the world, how the world positions what is happening in Ghana today.
That's a very important question, especially if we are concerned about our image, internationally speaking. And for the past, I think, 3 or 4 days, I started watching Al Jazeera featuring Ghana. They brought their man on the ground, reporting from the campaigns, the last rallies of the 2 parties. BBC did a report recently. So certainly, the eyes of the world will be focusing here, and for a reason. Ghana has been one country in Africa where there seems to have been a very successful electoral democracy. Like you say, this is going to be our 9th election.
Yeah.
We had it successfully, changing governments. So we are described as a beacon of democracy in Africa. If that is important to us, then we need to protect that. And I think we should. After all, it is democracy that has brought us peace and stability, even though, as I like saying, it hasn't translated into material gains, economic gains, but it's better than just being in the old bad days where every other year there's a military coup and everything gets disorganized and we start to build again. So I think the world is watching us because the stability and the peace we have here should have been an attraction for investors, by the way. There was a time that we began to see a lot of inflows from out there. Investors were interested because of the environment. But I think it slowed down. For whatever reason, maybe you can discuss at another time. But I think if you're able to sustain this, and hopefully the next government, whoever becomes the president and forms a government, that begins to make the country more friendly to foreign investors, then maybe we can see a reboost of our economy. So for the global world, I think Ghana represents something, and we need to protect and promote that by having a successful, peaceful elections.
Now, coming back home, let's also talk about the historic dynamics of this two-horse race. On one hand, if the NDC wins the presidential election, we'll have, for the first time, a former president coming back. If the NPP wins, we'll have, for the first time, a political party breaking the 80-year cycle. Either way, history gets made. Oh, I'm almost going to trap you with this. Talk us through the impact of each of these historic events on Ghana.
It's like the Americans, you know. Somebody lost election and came back. For whatever reasons, the American electorate decided to bring him back. And you're right. When Mahama lost 2016, that also so in a way history.
It was.
Stopping him from continuing with another year. That had been the trend. So like you rightly said, either way, they make history. I think, you know, in a way, maybe Ghanaians, we have become a little bit more sophisticated in the way we see government and how we react to government performance and all. It's not bad for you to come in for 4 years, and if the people think your performance doesn't require another 4 years, they make that decision. But there's one troubling aspect we need to look at, Kojo. See, these breaks and changes are in themselves negative for development, especially since these two parties seem to have created a pattern where when you come in new, you tend to jettison certain projects or initiatives of the previous government. So you set us back, and then you begin your own.
Yeah.
So whilst in the democracy there must be consideration for term limitations and changeovers and all, I guess I'm suggesting that a country like Ghana, where we haven't truly consolidated our economy, where we are still very over-dependent on the external economy, where so many basics of for livelihood are still being sought after, I think these intermittent breaks and pullbacks, I think, are not healthy for our development. So whilst we should move on with that, I think there should be a greater national interest in how there must be a continuity, especially regarding our development, and certain projects that are initiated by governments for the sake of a national progress should not be tampered with. They should be allowed to go to their conclusion. So for me, that is a side of this system that I think we need to be looking at very, very carefully.
Interesting. That's actually, I haven't thought about that aspect. The fact that it costs us every time we, switch things around. Correct. You're right. Well, if you're with us, thank you for staying. This is your election headquarters. We're live on Joy FM and on the Joy News channel and on all our social media platforms. I'm reluctant to say good morning because some of you might be listening to us 8 hours ahead of us somewhere in Australia, or watching us 7 hours behind on the west coast of the United States. But either way, you are with us for the duration because this is your election headquarters. Every moment of importance in this 2024 election will happen here. So stay with us. All right. Now, Isaac Nyonyo joins us via Zoom. Isaac, good morning. Where exactly are you today and what's kicking off there?
Good morning, Kojo. I'm right here at the Danago Police Station A and B, here in the Danago constituency. In fact, until 7:45, there was no any show here where a lot of electorate had lined up, and then the EC was still sorting out some differences that need to reconcile the figures. Both police station A and B has 556 votes each, and you put the two together, you have 1,112. But I will speak. Voters have started casting their vote, trying to make their decisions as to who to elect as a parliamentary candidate or in presidential for Damago and then Ghana. We have three candidates here, one independent, one for NDC, and then one for MPP. Each of them, for the first time, they are having an independent candidate in Damago in the person of Reverend Starker Moses. And then that of the MPP is the incumbent Abu Jinapao, and then former MP here, that is Adam Mutawakilu. The two of them I've seen as the leading contenders. So if you look at Damago, from the voter population of 34,000 during the assembly election, we have witnessed a jump, an increased number of 6,000. So we are talking about 4,131 voters here in Damago constituency. So another police station where there was a little bit of hold up was at the Canteen police station, where voters as early as 4 a.m. started lining up. Some came and lined up stones representing their images and then to come and join the queue to vote. So currently, almost all the police stations in Damago constituency have started casting their votes.
Wow. Well, it looks like a strong start there in Damongo. And we'll be coming back to you for more. Thank you for that. Isaac Nonya is there for us. Rafiq Salam, who you heard from earlier, is back somewhere in Wa, I believe. Rafiq, where are you and how's the day unfolding?
I'm currently at the Wa Circuit Court where there are 3 police stations right here. And we have Circuit Court 1A, Circuit Court 1B, and then also Circuit Court 2. So in these 3 police stations, we are having voter population pegged around 1,500 right here. And so in the first police station, Circuit Court 1A and then B, both of them are having close to about 443 voters right here. And so voting was expected to start at exactly 5 o'clock. Exactly 7 o'clock, but what happened is that after 15 minutes that they were able to start because they had 40 BBDs right here, but the technician came in and was able to fix the challenge for them. So currently, voting is currently underway in that particular, in these particular police stations, 3 of them. So now, no hitches for now in the area. But I managed to speak to some of the electrics, some of the voters. One happens to be Kokuba, one who told me that he started voting somewhere around 1954, but he wants to narrow it to 1992. And so in this particular police station, he's always number 1. I met him in 2016, 2020, and 2024. He was the number 1 person here. He says that his motivation is going to be to come first and then to do other things. So this is happening at the Wa Circuit Court, where the voters have queued and lined up to exercise their franchise.
Well, thank you for that. And there will be more from Rafiq as the day unfolds. Now, here's a conversation we've been looking forward to. In the run-up to this election, there's been a lot of conversation about security, safety, diplomacy. And I don't think there's a better person to help us get our heads around how important these things are in 2024 than our next guest, okay? He is the African Union High Representative for Silencing the Guns. And he used to be the president of ECOWAS. And in the moment, we will be joining Mamabi as she engages Dr. Mohamed Ibn Chambers, but not before we hear from former President Goodluck Jonathan, who has an address we're interested in.
Are known for that, they will do just that.
I mean, with what you've seen so far, being the election day, a lot of things happen on election day. Do you have that assurance that with the peaceful nature you've seen so far, we'll maintain that during the course of today until the final result is declared?
We're hopeful that it will be maintained. So far, we've not heard of any untoward behavior, even from the voters or from other people. We only pray and hope that we'll maintain this the whole day. But it's too early to make a concluding statement. We also ask questions, ask people who are in other parts of the country. But so far, no untoward conduct.
How did you and team zero down on the specific constituencies to visit?
No, we, for the West African Elders Forum, will concentrate more in Accra area because we are not technically election observers. We don't issue reports. We're here to see that there are no crises. That is the main thing of the West African Elders Forum. If there are issues, we join the stakeholders to deal with the issues. So we don't push people into the interland. So we cannot make a comprehensive statement about the elections in the country until we meet with the ECOWAS observers. I think that meeting will be tomorrow. We'll meet with the AU observers and we'll meet with the Commonwealth observers. Then we'll have an idea about what goes on in the whole country.
You were in Ghana before the polls. You met with the Electoral Commission, met with political parties. You're here on the day of the polls. Will you say things have improved from the time you came here, the concerns that you've heard, and from your engagements with various stakeholders?
Yes, when we came here in October, 7th, 8th October, we were here to engage with stakeholders. We met with the security group headed by the Inspector General of Police, made up of the police, the army, the immigration, the fire service, the customs, and the prisons, and so on. We met with the Electoral Commission, chairman and senior officers of the commission. We met with the political parties and the principal candidates, NPP and NDC. We met with the civil society, and the issues were raised. The political parties raised the candidates raised some concerns. The civil society raised some concerns, and we took up the matter with the security agency, the Joint Security Force headed by the IGP, and also with the Electoral Commission headed by the chairperson of the commission. And all those issues were addressed. The grey areas, the promise, and we believe that those things have been sorted out because we've been asking questions from those who are conducting the elections. And so far, people, both the agents of the political parties and the Electoral Commission officials are comfortable with the procedures going on. So we believe that all those areas are sorted out. The key thing is probably at the conclusion of elections, how they manage the data, the results from these polling units to the national. That is where people express concerns, which we are yet there, but we will also monitor that process.
But you are positive that that will also end well?
I'm very hopeful because this country is known for discipline. And I believe it will end well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And so that's former president for Nigeria, Goodluck Jonathan, touring quite a number of polling stations here in the Greater Accra region. came here just some few minutes ago to tour the Bawleshi Presby School Park. We know that this particular place holds a significant place in Ghana's politics and elections. This is where some violence happened in 2020 by-election. And we do not expect that to repeat itself today or even in future elections. Earlier, he talks about the fact that they've had a lot of engagement with the EC as well as the political parties, even from the various polling stations they've been to. Before coming here, he is positive with the things he's seen that all of this will lead to a peaceful election. He's got the encouragement that with all we've seen and the interaction he's had with the voters, all of today's activity would end peacefully. The straight message he has for the voters is that they should go out there and cast their votes peacefully, as well as the Electoral Commission as an arbiter and a referee in the election should play their position fairly to all of the parties so that this ends well. And so that's what the event has been here at Bawleshi at Ayawaso West Wuogon. We'll be following at the various centers. I'm told John Dumelo as well as Lydia Sarah Malhassan will be voting any moment from now. We'll have eyes on all of that and we'll bring to you. Kojo, that's what we've been witnessing at Ayawaso West Wuogon. Back to you at Studio 997.
Thank you for that, James. And James Aveji there in the Bawleshi polling station at Ayawaso West Wuogon. Very significant place, as he explained. Goodluck Jonathan, of course, former president of Nigeria, one of the high-level observers of this year's election, and he chose to address the press at Bawleshi, which of course is historic for, unfortunately, the terrible things that happened in the Ayawaso West Wuogon by-election a few years ago. Right, now back to the Joy News studio, and for that conversation I promised you, okay, security has been a big issue coming into this election. The British High Commissioner talks about how several Ghanaians have expressed their concerns about potential security breaches during this election. Well, I don't think there's a better person to engage on this topic than the African Union High Representative for Silencing the Guns, who also happens to be the former president of ECOWAS. Dr. Mohammed Ibn Chambers talks to Mamavi.
Thank you very much, Kojo Yang Singh from Studio 997. This is Election Morning on your election headquarters, and Kojo is absolutely right. In studio with me is Dr. Mohammed Ibn Chambers, African Union High Representative for Silencing the Guns. He's also chairman of the AU High-Level Panel on Sudan. He's a former president of ECOWAS. I would like to say good morning to you. Thank you so much for your time.
Good morning. You're welcome.
Great. So, just building on Goodluck Jonathan, former president of Nigeria, who is also here as part of the West African Elders Forum, in terms of the significance of where he's been to, where he delivered that message, a place where we witnessed a lot of violence not too long ago. What's the significance of maintaining peace, particularly at this time?
Well, I mean, my role as the African Union High Representative for Silencing the Guns, in that context, what we have witnessed on our continent is that there are many causes of violence, remote causes, immediate causes, but one of the triggering factors has always been poorly conducted elections. When you have contentions around elections, they can trigger violence, and if not well managed, this can get totally out of control. In our sub-region, not many people remember that the root cause of the Liberian Civil War was the poorly conducted elections of 1980. And it caught up with the coup of 1980, badly conducted elections of 1986, 87, and this triggered a civil war because most Liberians, I guess, did not really believe in those elections, did not accept the results. And we've seen it in a number of other African countries. So it's crucially important to have model countries, such as Ghana, where when it comes to electoral management, we have presented a good example, and we've succeeded in holding credible, violence-free elections 8 times in the past. This will be our 9th time. So there's high expectation that we will keep doing well. That's good for us as Ghanaians, for the country, but it's also good to have that as an example in West Africa and Africa as a whole.
Right. I'll come back to more of, the conversation on peace and violence, but I want to quickly take our listeners and our viewers to join the Vice President, who's also the presidential candidate for the NPP, Dr. Bawumia, who voted a while ago. And that's in your shorts right now, if you're watching television. If you're listening to us on radio, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia casting his ballot a while ago in his hometown of Wale Wale. We've been following through, and that's him right there leading the way, casting his ballot just some few minutes ago in Wale Wale, the presidential candidate of the NPP, who is also the Vice President of the Republic of Ghana. So, Dr. Ibn Chambers, as you're aware, very early is peaceful. In fact, throughout the day, when we organize elections, it's the counting towards the end of the day when counting begins. That's where sometimes we see pockets of violence. You talked about Ghana being a model. Are we still seen and regarded highly? Are we still a model? Considering the fact that we've recorded a few violence in the last elections, we actually had some 8 persons dying in the process.
Well, I mean, one of the most credible polling on the continent is Afrobarometer. And it ranks us still within the top 10 on the continent. I think our position is 7th. We've been scored higher before. So there's a slippage there. I would say not significant, but I mean, it's almost, I usually compare it to the FIFA rankings of, as a football nation where we're so passionate. We care where we are placed.
Absolutely.
So in this league of electoral management systems and electoral governance, we're in the top 10. And so even if we slip 1 or 2 places, it's something that as Ghanaians and different institutions, stakeholders involved, we should all endeavor to improve. So when I make my speeches, I often say that we shouldn't get complacent due to past performance, because that's not necessarily an indication of how we will do this time. I mean, it's encouraging to know you are in that league, but we can always do better. The violence of the last elections is regrettable. It has continued to be in the shadow of these elections. And I hope that all of us are going to go out and realize that every life counts. And the life of no Ghanaian is worth sacrificing for the electoral victory of any party or any candidate.
What does a violence-free election in Ghana mean for the rest of the continent, particularly West Africa?
No, it's a good example because it then tells others that it can be done, that the killings that occur, along with elections are needless, are senseless. It's not worth taking the human life for it. And so we need good examples. As a whole, liberal democracy is facing some challenges. I mean, not only in Africa, even in Western countries from where it has come to us. And so any electoral process that then is credible, is transparent, and leads to outcomes that are good, such as no violence, no killings, is something to be heralded.
Right. I'm going to bring back a peace pact that was signed by the political parties and then do a follow-up on that. But first, I want us to go back to Wale Wale, where the NPP's presidential candidate, the vice president, voted a while ago. He actually addressed the media, and I want us to take a listen to that. All right, we're going to bring that interview to you in a short while, but let's continue with our conversation in terms of the parties signing a peace pact, which was a big deal. But some people also question the signing of these peace pacts, especially when they are not able to resolve the violence that we possibly see towards the end of the exercise. How relevant? Is it still relevant?
It's absolutely relevant. It's symbolic, and it's you have no idea how it reverberates across the country and with the citizenry when they can see the two candidates and the rest of the candidates about whom they may be fighting over, including sometimes fisticuffs, you know, being convivial and, you know, talking to each other, normally hugging each other, patting each other in the back. That sends a very powerful message across. But more importantly, I mean, they put in their signature to a document which is, in a way, holding their feet to the fire.
But which is not binding.
Well, it's not binding, but it has moral authority, which is also important. It's not always, you know, the written law, but also we have normative values that any society should hold to. And when you give, you know, the old days they used to say, my word is my bond. And some will say my word is even more than, so it counts when you can undertake that as a leader, I will send a message to my followers and urge them to be peaceful, remind them that it's just an exercise of a democratic right to choose who you want to lead you at constituency level, at national level. And it should not be the basis of any violence. So, and I should say in that regard that the Peace Council and the Institute of Democratic Governance did a tremendous job. You know, the chairman and Peace Council worked around the clock. At some point, some of us were almost giving up. You know, between him and Dr. Akwete, they kept saying, let's not give up, let's make our last-ditch efforts. And in the end, we got the two major parties, you know, and their candidates, you know, Dr. Bawumia and former President Mahama, to show up, and they were very graceful and gave their word. And I know them very well, and I have no reason to doubt that they mean it. These are two individuals, as we say commonly, who would not even kill an ant, let alone to have people killing each other over them. So they completely abhor it, and they want a peaceful process, and at the end of the day, they will respect the voice of the Ghanaians.
How do we use an agreement like that to hold political leaders accountable when violence occurs, for instance?
No, at the end of the day, it's the law of the land which will prevail. I mean, so that's why we also deploy security agencies. They have the responsibility up front to ensure that anyone who engages in acts of violence is held to account. But these documents, as I say, are moral documents. They have a weight of people who were seen publicly. And these are honorable, you know, persons. They are leaders and major leaders. I mean, the 12 who signed it are putting themselves up to be lady or gentleman, first ladies, first gentlemen of the land. So what they say should mean something, and they can be held and they should be held to maintain the high standard they have set themselves.
Let's talk about silencing the gun in the context of this particular elections. What are the things that, the strategies, if you like, from where you sit in silencing guns around this time?
It's through dialogue and quiet negotiation, good offices, as we have seen, through peace pacts, as was signed, through what we are doing now, reminding the population about each individual's responsibility to keep the guns silent. Because after all, the guns don't fire by themselves. It's individuals who fire them. And unfortunately, when one trigger is pulled, it may have a cascading effect and the impact on the society can be devastating. As I said, elections have been triggers of conflict and civil wars across our country, poorly conducted elections, and these violence have led to civil wars. And there are studies which show that when countries have gone through civil wars, it sets them back by 20 years. So when the dust has settled, you don't just pick up from where you were when the conflict started, but it takes you back to where you were 20 years before because of the destruction of infrastructure, killing of human resources that would have been wasted. As a matter of fact, people would have left, your brain drained that you also. So the consequences are tremendous, and that is why the African leadership at the head of state embarked on ensuring that we do everything to keep the guns silent when the firing has not started. And where they are blaring, to do everything we can to stop the fighting, to go back to establish normal constitutional order.
Right. Post-election violence, what should the strategy be for the main actors in this exercise?
Well, delivering the right messages. And I am pleased, for instance, that many observer missions are varying their rules a bit. Before, you used to see the deployments that we have seen, and today we have with us, the ECOWAS is here, the AU is here, the Commonwealth is here, we have YEGA, Africa. In fact, the ECONET, which is the Association of Electoral Commissions of West Africa, are here. And more importantly, we have the deployment of CODEO, our own national observers. And they constitute, to be frank with you, the largest number of observers. We have 4,000. Most of the internationals are coming with a few hundred for the most, and many of them even less than 100. And the observation goes now beyond just election day to say, oh, people turn out well, it was quiet, it was peaceful, because the focus is now shifting to the post-voting period, to counting, collation, transmission of results.
Right.
That's where most of the mischief is usually done or has been done in the past. And I think observers are here to, as much as possible, keep their eye on that also. And where there are contentions, they will stay behind with us for a few days, talk to both sides to keep the bigger picture in mind. And the bigger picture is what? The stability, the peace of our country. And as Ghanaians like to say, we have only one Ghana, only one country. So we must be mindful not to do those things that will cause disturbance and disruption of the peace that we have enjoyed, because we know what the consequences have been in other places, and let's continue to be the model that we are.
And Dr. Ibing Chambers will continue, but in the context of security, the National Election Security Task Force, which is led by the Ghana Police Service, they have a press briefing right now. We want to quickly join in this briefing.
Today is the election day, and as we have kept faith with security throughout the electoral process, as at now we are monitoring, we'll be observing, and we'll be intervening whenever the need arises. We wish to also let you know that throughout the day, we'll be responding to issues and updating you with facts as they come up. So far, our officers on the ground have observed that quite a number of people try to access the various polling stations with their motorbikes. We wish to entreat such persons to ensure that they park about 100 meters away from the polling centers. And we have instructed our men on the ground to make sure they direct such persons to comply so we do not congest the polling stations with motorbikes. We also want to urge the general public to contact the police on our toll-free number 0800-311-311 whenever there is any information they want to share with us. Our officers are ready behind all the telephones and will be picking and responding to situations as they share information with us. I take the number again, 0800-311-311. We'd also like to use this opportunity to urge members of the public to desist from passing on information that is inaccurate, that they haven't verified. So issues of disinformation and misinformation to be discouraged so that all of us ensure a peaceful and successful process. And to facilitate this, we will continue to update you with the facts as far as security-related issues are concerned, as and when they come up. We want to take this opportunity once again to assure the general public, to assure all Ghanaians that the security agencies under the National Election Security Task Force, we are poised, we are ready, we are on the ground, and we will secure the election process up to the end. And we urge the public to come and work with us so that at the end of the day, Ghana will win. Thank you very much for your attention.
Briefing from the National Election Security Task Force at the police headquarters here in Accra. Dr. Eben Chambers, I'm sure you've probably heard about this security task force and the involvement of the military, which a lot of people have said keep them out of local elections, but you cannot keep them out of the task force. How do you think this can work? Because you can keep the military out, but how do we avoid excesses?
No, I think it's a fine balance that has to be maintained. The military have a role in preserving national security on the whole, but election security is the mandate of the Ghana Police Service, working with other security agencies, and we've done it in the past, especially with customs, immigration, etc. And so we have a culture where a military presence can be intimidating and can tend to provoke unnecessary tension. And so what is being asked of here is that the military should deploy and in a manner that is not intrusive in the electoral process itself. And this, incidentally, is understood very well by the hierarchy of the Ghana forces, who in statement after statement have assured that the military will have no role. They do not intend to play any role in the actual securitization of the electoral process, electoral personnel, electoral material, polling stations, so people can feel safe to go unintimidated to exercise. But at the same time, obviously, they will deploy in the background because there are situations that may overwhelm a particular deployment of police and other security agencies in a place. And if it gets to a tipping point where peace and security is threatened and the police call them in, then they can come. But they will come also in a very measured way. So, because all of us don't want to see a repeat of what happened in 2020.
Right.
2020 lives were lost, and as Ghanaians, we feel, all of us, sort of almost guilty that that happened. Because life of any Ghanaian matters. So what I've seen so far is that the leadership of the military is very conscious about this, and I hope that the foot, soldiers, if I can use that word in this context, are also mindful that if they go and behave in manner which is contrary to the orders that have been given by their hierarchy, they will be held individually accountable.
Right.
Yeah, but so far I think it's assuring that the military does not intend to have a direct role in this, and both from statements that have been issued by Ghana Armed Forces and from the briefing of the IGP at the Peace Park signing, this message came across very, very clearly. I happen to have worked with both our Ghana Police Service and our military in many contexts across Africa when they have deployed in peacekeeping roles. And they understand this very well. They're highly respected for their professionalism, and they have secured 8 elections in this country with a slight blemish the last time. And this time, I think everyone is determined not to repeat that bad experience.
Just 2 things before we say goodbye to you. One, we've heard many times that elections are won at the polling station. What kind of pressure does it put, especially after voting has ended, counting begins? What sort of pressure does it put on the system?
No, it puts tremendous pressure on the system, but the electoral officials have been trained, very well trained. The agents have also been very well trained by their respective parties. The security services have also, so all deployed on this day, election day, going to tomorrow, the day after, have been trained, and we just expect that they follow to the letter the electoral rules and understand that light should be thrown on the process. That's where the whole thing about openness and transparency comes in. And the evidence, not only in Ghana, but around Africa and the world, is that where these processes are open and transparent, the acceptance of the result is very high. And first of all, the probability of violence then is low because everybody can see it clearly. And the acceptance also becomes very high.
Right.
Because, I mean, it happened in a very... And across the region, what is observed that the tension is now shifting from election day. Election day, the usual ink is not at this station in the beginning, but normally it's resolved. They call and they bring the ink, they bring the ballot papers are not sufficient. Those are resolved. The shift now, the focus is the counting process, coalition, adding the numbers, and transmitting those numbers. So where those systems are also transparent and observed by party agents in the first instance, and then by all the deployed local and international agencies, then you create a system whose result there's a very high probability of acceptance.
Right. Well, just finally, you're all about silencing the gun and peace. What's your message to Ghanaians?
No, my message to Ghanaians is to be mindful that today, election day, the next few days, we are the sort of the center of the world. Ghanaians like to believe that we are always the center of the world, but especially in the next few days. So we should be of our best behavior. Everybody should follow the rules, and all stakeholders, we're in this together, so everybody, it's a shared responsibility. I mean, yes, some state institutions carry more burden than the others, but all of us have a role to play to ensure that we maintain our credibility as a country which delivers peaceful, non-violent elections, because the life of every Ghanaian matters, and we want people to live to see the day after, so that, as we are all saying these days, at the end of the day, it's Ghana that wins.
Right. Talking about Ghana, we share you with Africa Now, but you're Ghana first. Are you voting today?
I will vote today, and I'm looking forward to exercising my civic right, and I urge all Ghanaians to go and turnout in their numbers to have the opportunity to select our next leaders.
Right. We thank you very much, Dr. Mohammed Ibn Chambers. Hopefully we have a conversation again after polls close.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
And that's Dr. Mohammed Ibn Chambers. He's African Union High Representative for Silence in the Guns and chairman of the AU High-Level Panel on Sudan. Also, former ECOWAS president. This is your election headquarters, election morning on Joy News, crossing over now to Studio 997 with Kojo Yankson standing by.
Thank you, Mamavi. And that was fascinating. Dr. Ibn Chambers really opening things up with that conversation. We appreciate it. And of course, Prof. Bafwa Jimandia has been my companion here in Studio 997 for at least a couple of hours now. Yes. And we've got such value from you, Prof. I'm so glad you're here with us this morning.
You're a good company.
Oh, you're very kind. Now, of course, things are underway. And that conversation we just listened to with Dr. Ibn Chambers, I mean, it's circled around the issues of security. Yeah. And we know that in this election, it has been cropping up over and over. Particularly central has been the comments from the British High Commissioner, who said that she and her colleagues have been approached by several different Ghanaians, all expressing a certain concern, a certain fear, that there will be violence in this election. I mean, Prof, first of all, how do you assess that? I mean, for a diplomat to say that, you know, out loud,
yeah,
it must suggest that the magnitude of their concern must be quite high.
Yeah, Kojo, this is not strange to me at all, because in past years, some Ghanaians have gone to these foreign entities to register their concerns about local, or what you may call domestic issues. That in itself at times intrigues me, because at this level of our development, I will never walk to a foreigner to register a domestic concern. Seriously, I will not, especially my former colonizers. I will never do that. But some Ghanaians still believe that perhaps these are our saviors when we are in distress. These are people who can save us. That is on one level. The other level is that at times I wonder the extent to which foreign reps in our country should intrude into some purely domestic matters. That also troubles me, because I go around the world, and I wouldn't claim I know every country in the world, but living outside and knowing what I know and what I've studied in international diplomacy, it's only in African countries that we tend to still take a foreign intrusion, take it for granted. That shouldn't be the case, you know. Because you cannot be Ghana ambassador to the US or High Commissioner in the UK and, excuse my language, run your mouth on purely domestic matters. But I guess we allow them to do that, because if we take the initiative to go to them, certainly they will have to respond in one way or the other. Now, the real issue of security is a genuine concern. And I think in every election in our country, that concern pops up.
Yeah.
Because of the lack of trust in our own systems, and possibly the reality that somebody can cheat. So we all get concerned, and we all want peace in our country. But I think we should try as much as we can to deal with our domestic issues domestically. There are channels. There are channels for any concern that Kojo may have. There are some people of respect who, if we appeal to, can intervene privately, not publicly. There are legally some ways for one to resolve matters, unless we say that we don't have any trust at all in these kinds of legal systems, which seems to be the case in some instances where people think that perhaps the court system is not giving them fairness and all. And I can understand that. But certainly, don't expect a foreigner to come and solve your problems for you. At this age, we have to be able to find local solutions to such purely domestic matters. That's what I think I can say to that.
But where from this seeming expectation of violence?
So far, frankly, besides the rumors we hear, we haven't gotten any substantive evidence that something is going to happen. Over the past few days, I've seen some videos going viral about some people swearing to have known some plots hatched by certain groups or individuals to disturb the peace. Somebody claims they've been monitoring certain vehicles. They've gone for guns from the army barracks, all kinds of issues. Kokubaku used to use the term communist inferior tactics. Maybe it's a tactic to forewarn such individuals, I don't know, you know. But truly speaking, we're going to have a very successful election. We are just hoping we don't repeat any of the things we saw in the last elections where people lost their lives. Nobody wants that. And I think all political leaders and citizens and security people should see to avoid that particular. We don't need that. Let's have a peaceful election, free, transparent, so the winner will take it, the loser will take it. Then we live in our country. Already you have too many problems we're trying to solve. Violence, conflicts is not going to add anything of value to what we have. So I think that should be the mindset of all of us as we go through this day and select our leaders.
Do you think that the posturing of the parties might also be a contributing factor to this? We've seen not only the two main parties, but some of the smaller parties introducing this idea of some of their followers being called an army. You know, the so-and-so army. You know, we've seen it with the major parties as well. This desire to demonstrate that there is some sort of force backing what should be, forgive me, a democratic process. Do you think that contributes?
That could, Kojo. You see, what we say, what we put out there in the public domain has a way of influencing people. And I think when we were discussing the media role, I did mention that. So we have to be careful. And I don't know why when it comes to elections, all of a sudden, some people want to look like they are soldiers. It's an army. They are going to the war front. Why, after 8 elections, 32 years of successful turnovers, why should we still consider this exercise as a military exercise? That's by civilians, you know. So I cannot explain it satisfactorily to you or to others, but I think this desire to win, this desire for competition that will make me, give me victory, it is the issue, okay? And I can't not explain enough why that is completely unnecessary. I'm looking forward to Ghana, where elections will come as a normal routine. That you get up, you go and cast your ballot, and you go away, you listen to the results, either at home or on the TV. But it is the kind of politics that you're practicing that is kind of leading to that. People think through words they can intimidate. People think through threatening force they can influence. But these things don't work. Look, every Ghanaian who's going to vote today, I'm sure has made up his or her mind. It's already made up. So if they have made up their mind, and inshallah, we all look at the process and do what the process requires of us, nothing should happen. You see? So I think the parties should revisit their approaches to elections in terms of the threats and the all kinds of things that they say that tend to agitate people. We don't need that. I believe strongly that time should be passed.
Yeah. Of course, the police holds primary responsibility for providing security during this election. We've just seen them hold a presser to give an update on their deployment and preparation. how do you feel about the preparedness of the police to properly police the election?
So far, I think it's been good. I think the IGP, as head of the Election Security Task Force, so far has been doing great. I've been following the press conferences, the statements that they release, the training that they've offered their people, and we are hoping that if the personnel go to the field in a professional fashion and act as such, there should be no problem. I like the idea of these periodic updates that they are giving. It's very good. I think it's an innovation. I don't think we've done it before. If we have, maybe you can remind me. But I don't think it's happened before. The police have been properly allocated across the country. But again, after all that is done, you may find a bad nut somewhere who will go out of line and misbehave. Those things happen, okay? That will be beyond the control of the official police authority. So we have to be watching out for that. But I think overall, I think the police seem to have demonstrated. But the day is not over.
Indeed.
So we cannot conclude that they've done well. Yeah.
Well, Prof, it's interesting we've been talking about the British High Commissioner, because right now we can go across to the Korle Klottey constituency. My colleague Collins is there, and he's about to speak to, you wouldn't guess it, the British High Commissioner. Collins, tell us how this came to be and how the British High Commissioner's observations of the process so far have been.
Right, Kojo Yankson. The British High Commissioner has been touring the Korle Klottey constituency right from the time election began. We have her here with me that we want to speak to ask her about what she make of the process so far. Your Excellency, good morning.
Good morning.
How do you make of the process, the electoral processes?
Well, it's very early days so far, but as you can see, things are proceeding very smoothly and calmly here. No queues, very quiet. We hope that today continues in this way.
Right. Initially, we were having concerns about our security issues. Ghana Armed Forces or the Security Task Force assured Ghanaians that they are not going to be part of this electoral process. Yesterday, there was a statement that was issued that we have military presence or military deployed. What do you say about this?
So it's been really helpful to see the very clear messaging coming out of Ghana Armed Forces, coming out of the police service, and also from the candidates, from the Electoral Commission and others at the signing of the Peace Pact last week. Those outward strong signals of commitment to peace from the key actors in this process are absolutely crucial. It's very clear from the statements from the armed forces and from the IGP the circumstances, limited circumstances in which the armed forces would be called in to deal with any situation. But I know from conversations with the Inspector General of Police that he has led the Election Security Task Force very impressively. They have very comprehensive plans in place, and so we're confident that those correct protocols will be followed.
So that means there are no issues with the deployment of the military?
So my understanding from what the armed forces have said is that the military will be present, they will be ready to act should they need to act, but they will only act if the Inspector General of Police calls on them to act, and that's entirely as it should be.
You have been to a few of the polling stations in the Korle Klottey constituency. What do you make of the general overview now?
So this is the first polling station that I've been to actually this morning, and as you can see, it's very calm, very peaceful, no queues, and as I said earlier, we very much hope that's how things will continue through the day.
Okay, so on the whole, what's your expectations like this year's elections?
So my expectations is we're a close run thing according to all of the polls, but we know how unreliable polls can be, so that's no guarantee of what will actually happen. In terms of the process, the various bodies who have a role to play in running this election are very, very well prepared. We know that Ghanaians are deeply committed to their democracy. That's one of the values that the UK and Ghana absolutely shares. And we are hoping to see Ghanaians come out in their numbers to exercise their democratic right to vote. Ghana enjoys really high electoral turnout, better than the UK, and that's a real sign of commitment to people having a say in who runs their country and the leaders that they choose to serve them, and we hope to see more of that this year as well.
Final one on the special voting. There were concerns of vote buying, especially in Iowa, so West Oregon. What do you make of that? I don't know if that one has come into your notice.
Yeah, and I've seen the response from the services who will deal with that, and they've said very clearly that they will investigate and they'll take the appropriate steps. So again, that's entirely as it should be. I hope that people will take note today and we won't see any more of that today.
Thank you. So that's the British High Commissioner, Her Excellency Harriet Thompson, who is touring Korle Klottey this morning. This is her first polling station. That's the YMCA polling station in Korle Klottey. Yankson, you can take over.
Nobody has called me Yankson since my Ogasco headmaster, but thank you, Collins. Our election coverage continues. This is your election headquarters. We're taking you all around the country to tell you how these elections are unfolding. Right now, we can go to Techiman South, I believe, where Anas Sabet has been keeping an eye on things. Anas, bring us up to date.
Voting started in most of the voting centers at exactly 7 a.m. here. Only a few of the voting centers I have visited had some few delay, and mostly it's as a result of the EC officers coming into consensus together with the agents as to what to be done before the voting starts. I am yet to go to any polling center where voting is here to start. Almost all the centers have started, and of course, no hitches. There's no single voting center that have gone where they are having challenges with either their biometric equipments or any other thing, except that I am not so impressed with the number of persons in the queue. It's very early. It's 8:54 right now, and some of the voting centers, there are virtually no people in the queue to cast their ballots. Security has been entirely tight here. The Techiman South constituency is one of the constituencies where there's so much eye here. Remember the 2020 general elections, where this is one of the constituencies that had its results declared at the final, periods by the Electoral Commission, because there were some hitches with regards to collation. This time around, the EC officers are putting things in place to ensure that enough, measures are taken before, during, and after the polls. And we are hoping that what was recorded or what we witnessed in 2020 is not gonna be witness again this time. 4 candidates are vying for this particular position. The Minister for Local Government and Rural Development, Martin J. Mensah Kosa, is up again against the man who gave him a close contest in 2020, Christopher Basson Tibare. The two are, going head to head once again. We have 2 other candidates, one an independent and then one representing the LPD. So 4 in Techiman South, and we are hoping that by the close of polls today, the entire constituency will be as peaceful, not as we witnessed in the 2020 general elections.
Thank you, Anas, for that comprehensive update. Techiman South continues to evolve, and we'll keep you updated. Just keep it locked here on your election headquarters. Boko Central is our next stop. My colleague Albert Sori has been in control of affairs there. Albert, good morning to you. Now, Boko Central is important. We know that the conflict recently has dominated events there. Has it affected voter turnout? I think, Albert, you might have to unmute your microphone so we can hear you. We can't currently hear you. Albert Sori, of course, is in Boko Central, and Boko, of course, has been at the epicenter of the conflict recently, and been a very bloody conflict. But on this important day of election, we're wondering how it'll affect the turnout. Albert? Right, okay, we must apologize. There's a technology problem there that we will resolve and take you back to Boko to find out how things are going there with Albert. Sorry. But of course, now the British High Commissioner, as an observer, seems to be taking note of how smoothly things are going. Now you've made the point about whether or not it is appropriate for people to run off to foreign powers with issues of local nature. But they do have a role to play as observers. Talk to us about that role and why it's important in an election like this.
No doubt they do have a role. After all, look, they give us money to run our elections. We run to them for support and all. So in that respect, what we call the development partners seem to have a major role to play in most African countries, including our own. So far as you are dependent on them for your sustenance, that's going to happen. I recognize that. However, I think there are certain political angles that they should not, encroach. And this is one of them. But going out to observe elections, there was a year that even...
forgive me, Prof.
Sure.
I'm getting a signal that we have some images of the Vice President and the flag bearer for the NPP, Dr. Bawumia's vote when he cast it in Wale Wale. He got there very, very early to do that. I think we have some visual images of that. Prof, forgive the interruption,
Please.
but if we can quickly take a look at these images of the Vice President as he arrives with his entourage, heavily clad in all manner of batakari, as they march up purposefully to the polling station. The Vice President himself wearing a white batakari and, of course, flanked by his aides and security team. He, of course, arrived there last night so that he could do this this morning. You can see him shaking hands with people as he makes his way towards the polling station. We have images now of the ballot box calmly awaiting his vote, and you can see him folding and inserting that ballot paper into the slot. There it is, his vote officially cast. He waves, gives a little bow, and now we can hear him as he addresses the press.
With our message to the people, I think the message has been well received, and I believe that by the grace of God, when all the ballots are counted, the MPP, myself and our parliamentary candidates will emerge victorious in this election.
How do you see the election so far?
So far, what I'm hearing in terms of reports around the country, there is calm. There is very little tension that I can see around the country. People are going to queue. In fact, I gather that people were queuing from midnight last night across the country. It shows enthusiasm, and I believe that that portends well for the democracy of Ghana.
Any figure of margin of victory?
Stephen, you're going to set a trap for me. I'm not going to fall in that trap. A victory is a victory, and we just want to win. So, by the grace of God, we will win.
Can you say again what you expect for this election exactly?
Well, I expect a peaceful process. I believe that we will see a democracy in Ghana entrenched. And I want to thank all of you very much.
And that was the moment when the Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, cast his vote in his constituency of Wale Wale. He's not the only prominent figure in this election who has already cast his vote. I can take you now to Menchia South, which means you know who I'm talking about. The running mate for the NPP, Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempeh, has already put his vote in the box. Let's capture that moment now. As
being verified here at the Apodefie polling station under the Menchia South constituency, Efia Kobi electoral area, or Alaba to be precise. Going through the process.
So if you're listening to us on the radio, well, I can tell you, Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempeh, clad in all white with a baseball cap, made his way to a polling station in Menchia South, engaged the electoral officials, who are all ladies at this particular desk that he walked to, had a conversation with them. They handed him his ballot paper. He has now disappeared into the privacy booth to cast his vote. And there are lots of people looking on as the former energy minister and current running mate to Dr. Bawumia places his thumb on some not yet disclosed space on the ballot paper, after which we expect him to go through the folding process and place it in the box. Oh, here he is. He emerges from the booth in his white t-shirt and trousers with his baseball cap. Now we see him walking up to another official, following which he now approaches the other ballot booth. I think he's now going to cast his vote for parliamentary candidate. And again, these booths are designed for privacy, so that we cannot see how anybody votes. And of course, Dr. Opoku Prempeh not taking too long to place his thumb where he wishes it to be. Certainly not someone who is making his decision at the last minute. And now that he's done, he walks up to the two ballot boxes, and now the folding ceremony begins. Everybody looks on, cameras out, taking pictures as the running mate to Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia folds up his piece of paper, well, pieces of paper, to place in the appropriate boxes. And there we go. Matthew Opoku Prempeh has cast his vote in Menchia South. So it's all going rather smoothly across the country. No major incidents. Your election headquarters is bringing you every important moment in this election. And while that is happening, of course, we need to be bringing you the general context. Earlier, we were in Boko Central. Albert Sori has been keeping an eye on things there, and we can join him now to find out exactly how the conflict that has been brewing there for some months now has affected voter turnout. Albert, how is it looking this morning?
Kojo, people are turning out to vote here in Boko Central. It is still very early for us to tell if the conflict has affected turnout. But in the polling stations that I have visited so far, the presiding officers tell us the number of voters expected at these polling stations. And so far, we don't have any polling station that has more than 500 expected voters. So the queues are not so long, but the expectation is that as the day goes by, more people will turn out at the polling stations to cast their votes. This morning, I was at the office of the Electoral Commission, which is located at the Boko Municipal Assembly, just before they dispatched ballot boxes and other voting materials to various polling stations across the municipality. And the presiding officer there told us that they had to get security clearance last night to be able to send voting materials to some of the polling stations. And they continued that this morning. So we don't have any challenges yet so far. I arrived here last night. It was very peaceful. There weren't any incidents at all. When we spoke to the residents, they also tell us that in the last 3 days, it has been quiet. The usual sounds of gunshots that residents in this municipality tend to hear from time to time have all vanished, at least for the last 3 days. And so we haven't really witnessed any incident. In fact, the place is so calm, you can barely tell that this is a volatile area or the place that we talk about all the time when you hear about violent incidents, particularly in the Upper East region. It's been very quiet in Bawku so far.
In Bawku Central, the conflict that has been brewing for several months doesn't appear to have affected the ability of citizens to vote. I mean, we've been talking about security. Was that a particular concern of yours, Prof?
Yeah, for every election, we have to be concerned about security.
I mean security in Bawku Central.
Bawku,
yes.
Yeah. Bawku Central in particular, because we know of what has been going on for the past several months. And we should be pleased that at least on this particular day, nothing has happened. And it was interesting that the reporter also told us that for the past 3 days, he's been calm. So hopefully, the process will proceed without any serious violent interventions, and they will successfully conclude the day. That, I think, is quite commendable.
Yeah. Well, so far, so good. It's all looking steady, stable, no major incidents. Election 2024 proceeds as planned so far. And you can catch it all here on your election headquarters. Right now, we're going back to the Joy News studio where Mamabi is standing by. Mamabi, quite a morning, right?
Oh, yes. But I like the fact that it's generally been peaceful. Election underway in most of the centers that we've visited so far, which is a good sign. We're hoping that voting can end right on time, and then we can end this in good time. Kojo Yang from Studio 997. Professor Bafo Agyemangua, we are very grateful that you've been here with us this morning. This is your election morning on your election headquarters. We're wrapping up Evans Mensah. Let's end with Bawku Central, which is an interesting constituency. We've heard about the talk of no military presence. They will be the last resort. But if you were watching on television a while ago when Albert Sori was reporting, we saw some military men in shot. That's a special circumstance, Evans Mensah.
It is a special circumstance, and it has a tragic history. Electorally, we know that the Electoral Commission had been uncertain. I spoke to the deputy chair recently, and it was uncertain whether they can even set up polling stations there. The last time they were registering, they struggled to do it. A lot of people there haven't registered at all. So it's actually very refreshing to see that polling is happening and is safe. And my colleague, Albert Sori, is doing a great job. He himself said, I'm going to bring the thick of it so we can get that live. But the reason why we're focusing there is also because of the conflict, right? This year alone, we are talking about some 32 deaths there alone. And that isn't a good story to tell, right? 32 deaths, right? That isn't a good story to tell. And we also know that just on the 30th of November, 3 people died, a schoolgirl and 2 others. So it's very tragic. But the thing about it is that politically, though, in terms of the electoral outcome, it isn't a place that you expect too much of a context because it's an NDC stronghold, except for the parliamentary context. In the parliamentary context, in the past, it has shown that it can be a very intriguing one because the MPP has won it before. If you come to 2008, where, you know, Adebu Dramani, who was a very controversial figure at the time, won it, but you have there Mahama Yariga. Now, see how close the race there had been even for him. Because of the conflict, campaigning there is always limited, right? Also, people showing up to vote is an issue. But I actually like this when I saw it, that in spite of the challenges, they had a turnout of 75, which isn't bad, all things considered. It isn't bad at all in the 2020 elections, right? Considering all that happened, considering the potential for guns to go off, the military presence, which you can say could intimidate those who want to, they had 75% turnout there. So clearly the people there want to exercise their franchise. And you're looking at this to say, and this year has been very deadly. As I said, 32 people dead already. This may affect voter turnout. There are many people who haven't registered to vote in Bawku Central because of the challenges with the voter registration that went on and the violence there. But good start so far. The only thing you can hope for, we've just been speaking to Dr. Mohammed Ibn Chambers. This is exactly what he's hoping for, that the start continues towards the end.
All right, that's Evans Mensah with, a brief about the constituency Bawku Central. Unfortunately, the violence that we've recorded, not election-related, by the way. The good thing is people are out there voting today. Albert Sorry is our man on the ground. He'll bring us all the action in Bawku Central. Still to come, we'll touch base with our colleagues at Studio 995, Kumasi, David Akwete and Eugene Osei Tutu. Right now, though, we're crossing over to our HQ Interactive, our interactive team, all set. And coming after myself and Evans Mensah, Kojo Braze will be in the Joy News studio. This is your election headquarters. Next is Nathaniel Atto with Interactive.